Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 10th Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting. Let's start with roll call.
Carrie?
Here.
Stephenson?
Here.
Schlethauer?
Here.
Schreiber?
Here.
Wilhelm?
Here. All right. Ceremonies, announcements, appointments. Oh, called you, right? Ceremonies, announcements. Did you call Ray?
Kimball.
President?
Present.
You got replaced. I'll be darned.
Not on the list. Ceremonies, announcements, appointments, or presentations.
Brownie, maybe come on, you guys already had some of the brownies, but
Yes.
today is National Cream Cheese Brownie. Recognizing the brownies out there.
Okay, cool. I do have one announcement to make. As you see, we do have one open seat on the commission. It is still open. So if anybody's interested in that, you can go to the website. On the navigation link, it's government, and then commission on the right-hand side is the actual application that you can put in. So if anybody's interested here, or you know of anybody that might be interested, that is open, and we're still taking applications for that. Any amendments to the agenda?
I just need to change something. Would I do that now for last month's agenda? I wasn't here, and I'm listed as being here.
Consent calendar.
Or the consent calendar
Yeah.
before we approve
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, wait for that in the consent calendar.
Okay.
Just a question, the Prairie Avenue annexation that we heard, or we had a public hearing on in our last meeting,
That's correct.
that's not on the action item for tonight?
Not on the consent. Our goal is to get that on next month.
Okay. All right, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we do have that. It's in the process of being reviewed and submitted.
Got it. That's fine.
Any amendments, though?
There's none.
None. Any declaration of conflict, ex parte contact, site visits? Any commission members?
None.
Seeing none, all right, let's go through the,
Just a quick mention on Haven View, or Heaven View. I do live very close to that subdivision.
Okay.
And I walk through there on a regular basis, but I haven't viewed it in light of what we're doing here. I don't have any
Sure.
involvement in it or anything, just thought I'd mention.
Perfect, noted, thank you. Consent calendar, please.
Yeah, we got action item A is the meeting minutes from January 13th. We got action item B, which is the Gaul Annexation zoning recommendation, file number ANNX 25-1. Action item C is the Prairie Medical zoning recommendation, file number ZC 25-2.
Okay. Any questions? I guess we just want to note that Vicky Jo was not at that meeting from the 13th, so just mark that. Excuse, yeah. Yeah, oh, he does?
Yeah,
Oh,
it is marked as
okay.
excused.
Just misread it. Okay,
Sorry, because it was on there both. I didn't notice it was marked underneath. Okay.
no problem.
I move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor
Second.
and a second. Roll call, please.
Carrie?
Here.
Stephenson?
Yes.
Schlethauer?
Yes.
Kimball?
Yes.
Schreiber?
Yes.
Wilhelm?
Here. All right, thank you. Next item is citizen issues. This section of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the commission on an item that is not on the agenda tonight. Persons wishing to speak will have 5 minutes. Do we have anybody? All righty. Any unfinished or old business tonight?
There's none.
All right. Move into the action items tonight. Public hearings, we have 3 of them tonight. If you're wishing to speak for any testimony for any of these, make sure you fill out the form, complete that up, fill that out. We'll go through that process when we get through each hearing. You'll be heard at that time. We'll start with North Chase Place Annexation and Subdivision. We'll open up that hearing.
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Justin Souter, and you have the North Chase Place Annexation and Subdivision before you. File numbers ANNX-25-8 and SUBD-25-8. The applicant is requesting the Planning and Zoning Commission to forward a zoning recommendation to the City Council for single-family residential on approximately 4.9 acres as part of an annexation request into the city and approval from the Planning and Zoning Commission to subdivide that property. Here is the location. It is on the southwest corner of Chase Road and Fisher Avenue. You can see in the red hatch. And here you can see the site is not currently within the city and therefore does not have a zoning designation. The properties to the north and west contain single-family homes in the R1S, or the single-family residential suburban zone. And the property to the east is undeveloped farmland, and the property directly to the south on Coleman Street is within the R1 zone. The applicant is requesting a zone designation of R1. The site is currently undeveloped. Water would be supplied from the East Green Acres Irrigation District, and wastewater would be handled by the city, and there is adequate capacity for the anticipated zone designation of R1. Chase Road is a minor arterial, and Fisher Avenue is a minor collector, and Coleman Street is a residential roadway. Additional rights-of-way and easements would need to be provided as part of the annexation. We'll get into the review criteria for a zone change first, and you can see here, number 1, is the proposed zoning district consistent with the future land use map and focus area contained in the comprehensive plan? The future land use designation of the subject property is low-density residential, which encompasses all types of single-family residential uses up to 8 units per acre. The properties to the north, south, east, and west are all in the low-density residential use designation, and the site is within the Central Prairie focus area, which to date development trends have been focused on addressing single-family housing needs. A key policy of the focus area is to guide development by supporting provisions for a variety of housing types and densities. The proposed single-family zone is compatible with properties in the immediate vicinity to the north, south, and east, which all contain single-family residences. North, south, and the west. The R1 zone would also be consistent with the focus area, which talks about providing a variety of housing types because the properties to the west and north are within the single-family residential suburban zone. So you can see here in the faint yellow color, they have a slightly higher acreage than the R1 zone. And the applicant is requesting R1 zone, which is consistent with the neighborhood directly to the south on Coleman Street. Moving on to the second review criteria, which states, is the proposed zoning district consistent with the goals and policies contained in the comprehensive plan? The annexation request is consistent with Goal 1 of the comp plan, which seeks to grow and sustain a balanced, resilient economy for Post Falls, providing community prosperity and fiscal health. The R1 zone can deliver single-family homes, which make up the majority of the desired housing product in Post Falls. And there are several factors that need to be considered when applying a new zone, such as future land use mapping, compatibility with surrounding land uses, infrastructure, traffic, and the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. We've already touched on the fact that the proposed zoning designation is consistent with the future land use map and compatible with surrounding land uses, and we're talking about the goals and policies right now. As far as infrastructure, sanitary sewer is located at the southerly property line at the terminus of Coleman Street. This line can be extended to service the majority of the property. However, the northernmost lots may have issues getting connected to the sewer due to differences in elevation. The city will be installing sanitary sewer along Fishner Avenue this summer and would be able to service those lots, but the sewer main cannot be connected to the city's sewer system until the Fisher Avenue lift station is reconstructed, which is scheduled for sometime in 2027. This means that access to the Fisher Avenue sewer main may be limited until late 2027 or 2028. All that being said, the city has capacity and is willing to provide sanitary sewer service to the entire property, subject to the elevation limitations for the northern portions of the property. For traffic, Chase Road is considered a minor arterial and Fisher Avenue is a minor collector. Dedication of additional rights-of-way and easements would be required on both roads with annexation. Coleman Street is a local residential, and no rights-of-way or easements would be required with annexation, but would be required at the time of development of the subdivision. The annexation is also consistent with Goal 12, which seeks to maintain the city of Post Falls' long-term fiscal health. The R1 zone may help with fiscal health by providing housing, and it's also consistent with policies 8 and 9, which encourages compatible infill development of vacant parcels and annexation of county islands within city limits. Annexation of the site with a zoning request would help provide land for future housing needs at a low density and in an area that is projected to be incorporated into the city. The development of the parcel following annexation would be considered both infill development and within a county island and would be compatible with the existing subdivision to the south on Coleman. The last review criteria for a zone change: does the proposed zoning district create a demonstrable adverse impact upon the delivery of services by any political subdivision? And there have been no identified demonstrable adverse impacts at this time. Now we'll move on to the subdivision. So here's another view of the site, just a little closer so you can see it a little better. And here is the proposed subdivision plan. There are 20 lots on Coleman Street, and Coleman Street would be extended to Fisher Avenue, giving these homes access onto Fisher Avenue to the north and Grange Avenue to the south via Coleman Street. The proposed subdivision pretty much mirrors the adjoining subdivision to the south, which also contains 20 lots within the same zone. If you'll notice just south of Lot 20, there's a small area represented in the red rectangle. This is denoted as an emergency access for that subdivision to the south. We'll get into that later. I just wanted you to see where it is on the site. It's for safety purposes, so emergency services could quickly access the property in case of an emergency. So now getting into the review criteria for a subdivision. Number one, definite provision has been made for a water supply system that is adequate in terms of quantity and quality for the type of subdivision. Water will be provided by the East Green Acres Irrigation District, and they've provided a will serve letter. Two, adequate provision has been made for public sewage system that is existing municipal system can accommodate the proposed sewer flows. As we talked about during the annexation request, portions of the property may require the city's extension of sanitary sewer along Fisher to be operational prior to the construction of homes. But once that issue is resolved, and the city does have capacity and willing to serve at the proposed density. Three, proposed streets are consistent with the transportation element of the comprehensive plan. The proposed layout of the subdivision accommodates connectivity and will not have a negative impact on the local transportation system. The extension of Coleman Street will provide an additional access point enhancing vehicular circulation. And then the existing emergency access point between Coleman Street and Chase Road will no longer be needed, and the subdivision plan should include plans for removal of the concrete approach for the emergency access onto Chase Road. And then Chase and Fisher will require improvements to comply with city standards at the time of development. Here's another view of that emergency access. So you can see in the above view that red rectangle, and then down below is the street view from Google. So this will all be removed and then required to be a pedestrian connectivity. So you'll have like a mid-block connection from Coleman to Chase Road.
Justin,
Yeah,
who owns that tract?
the properties to the south. I believe there's a homeowners association. I believe they're here tonight. I think they can.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I have a question on that too. So where the red is, the homeowner association owns that. Do they own it all the way through the road, the end of that road?
I'm hearing yes.
So we've gotten a letter from the homeowner association that they're opposing that to be open, but don't you have to get permission from them to get that end of that road?
I'm gonna let city engineer come up.
Members of the commission, Robert Paulus, city engineer. When the subdivision to the south was platted, a public access and walkway easement was provided on the plat for the public so that a pathway could be put in that area in the future when the emergency access would go away. It was the intention back when that project was put in, that Coleman Street would eventually extend to the north and that the emergency access would not be needed, but that we still would want to have a public access way through at that location.
Okay, so just so I understand it, the city of Post Falls, through that plating action, has rights,
We have an
easement to require or to construct a pathway in that area.
That is correct.
Okay.
Where he's talking at that end of that asphalt, the city has rights to that, even though they own it.
Yes, the city has an easement which allows it to have specific rights on what to do on that property, even though the ownership of that tract remains the homeowners association.
Coleman's a city street.
Coleman is a city street, yes.
And is the developer of this new project going to be paying for the cost of whatever modifications happen on that property?
They would be responsible for the cost of removing the approach on Chase Road, which is the concrete portion, and then putting in I believe that we called out an 8-foot either asphalt or concrete pathway between the sidewalk on Coleman Street and the multi-use path on Chase.
Okay.
Any other questions?
None.
So one other item I'd like to add on to, there was some discussion regarding the sanitary sewer, and on the northern area that there was some concerns about the elevation and whether or not they could get all the sewer to flow south. From the time that we put together the staff report, there has been additional conversations with the developer and their engineer, and there was a route that was found on how to make some adjustments in the road elevations and the grading of the subdivision so that everything could flow to the south and that they would not need to utilize the sewer line in Fisher Avenue. Does that make sense?
They raised the lots, or?
A little bit, yes. No other questions for me?
Thank you.
No, thanks.
All right, number 4, all areas of the proposed subdivision which may involve soil or topographical conditions presenting hazards have been identified, and the proposed uses of these areas are compatible with such conditions. There are no known soil or topographical conditions which have been identified as presenting hazards, and the site is not located within 1,000 feet of an interstate gas pipeline. Number 5, the area proposed for subdivision is zoned for the proposed use, and the use conforms to other requirements found in the code. The subdivision and proposed lots conform to the requirements of Title 17 and Title 18 of the Post Falls Municipal Code. Single-family detached homes are allowed through the land use table within the R1 zone. And the last criteria, developer has made adequate plans to ensure that the community will bear no more than its fair share of costs to provide services by paying fees. Impact fees will be assessed and collected on individual building permits to assist in mitigating the off-site impacts to parks, public safety, streets, multimodal, EMS, and fire. These are all the agencies that were notified of the project. We received comments back from these 6. They will either remain neutral, coordinate during time of development, or had no facilities, no impacts, or no comments. The Post Falls Highway District did have a comment to annex all portions of right-of-way on Chase and Fisher adjacent to the parcel, which that will be worked out in the annexation agreement. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions you may have.
In the subdivision review criteria number 3, it says here that it won't have a negative impact on the local transportation system. You don't, if you want to bring the map back up.
Does this one work?
Okay, it shows Coleman go through there, but then there's another street, I think it's called Wayward, and neither one of those have stop signs, and they're real close to Chase. I personally have been almost T-boned twice there. So I think with where the freeway is and stuff, that road is going to be took a lot more than that other end of that. Are there going to be stop signs put on the Coleman and Wayward to stop the,
I want to ask Rob to come back up.
okay?
Commissioner Wilhelm, members of the commission, Robert Paulus, city engineer. When the intersection of Coleman and Janusek was put in, we did take a look at the site visibility at that intersection. There is adequate site visibility to meet the design standards. And in the past 5-year history, we can also go back further than that, but in the past 5-year history, there have been 0 collisions at the intersection of Janusek and Grange Avenue. One intersection further to the west, which would be Wayward Circle, and Grange has had 1 collision in the past 5 years. That is considered very minor as in terms of collision rates. And the city's policy and approach is and has been that when you have residential streets intersecting one another, we do not provide for stop signs.
Well, that might be the policy or whatever. But the reasons there wasn't a couple more wrecks is I was quick on it and I stopped it. So with this new thing, if that goes through, the majority of the traffic is going to probably come right off on Grange and go down Coleman, what I would think. So without stop signs there, we're going to have problems. If where that current subdivision is, they've had that emergency access for about 8 years, correct?
Since the subdivision went in,
Right,
yes.
right. So I don't think, I mean, with opening that all up, it says here that it's not going to have an effect on the transportation system. That corner right there is going to be a little bit of a mess.
In the opinion of the engineering division of the city of Post Falls, based upon our experience and our managing of the road system, taking a look at the collision history that is in that area, comparing the site visibility to the design standards that are utilized and the performance of other similar intersections, we do not see that what is being proposed would degrade the safety of that intersection. You have a 1/4 mile of local residential street that terminates on the north, and traffic getting out of the area would be more likely to go out to Chase Road to head north or south from Janusek Lane on Grange than to go all the ways up to Fisher. Our projection is that more of that traffic is trying to head south than it is to head north as well.
Well, with all due respect to your engineering department, I can see that from my house, and I see the traffic there, and I can see more. And then when that train comes, the traffic goes down to there. And with another subdivision right there, I think we're going to have some issues.
We
Duly
can
noted.
disagree with on that.
So,
Any other questions?
Mr. Paulus?
Yes.
If in fact there ends up being a higher collision rate than anticipated after the subdivision is built, what is the city's policy with regards to installing stop signs?
When we have issues where people call in and complain and say, hey, there's a safety issue here, we go out, we take a look at the intersection, and we reassess what is the site visibility, can critical stopping distances be made with the site visibility that's there. We also take a look at the collision history. We have access to all the state's collision history, which would include Post Falls PD, State Police, and Kootenai County. Also, if it's in the near term, we will contact the Post Falls Police Department to get records that are in the last several months, because the state records tend to lag depending upon the source, either a few months to a year.
Okay, so if some point in time it is deemed unsafe, then the city street department will put a stop sign in, is that right?
Yes,
Okay.
if a stop sign would be shown that it would correct the type of collisions that are going on, we would put in a stop sign.
Okay.
So we have to wait till a wreck happens.
Oh,
Commissioner Wilhelm, don't want to argue with you too much. Putting up a stop sign does not guarantee there will not be a collision. I could give you a number of instances where there are stop signs, a person has ran that stop sign and caused collisions which have caused injury or worse at times. So the prudent thing for us to do is to look at what is the best action for the conditions that are out there. This is a condition where you have good site visibility. You have low-speed roadways. They are low-volume roadways as well compared to Chase Road, Prairie Avenue, et cetera. In our experience, putting up a stop sign is not going to make that intersection safer. It could possibly make it less safe, but that is something that we don't know either way, but our experience is in a residential area, not having stop signs at residential intersections does not create an adverse and dangerous situation unless you have other mitigating issues going on.
I got a question.
Yes.
Number one on the HOA's letter here talks about groundwater in the swales and overflowing, and we've already talked about elevation. Has there been conversations between the city and the developers engineering about if that's a concern on that end and what might happen in the future?
With the development of the new subdivision, they are required to mitigate the stormwater from the impervious surfaces they create. They cannot increase or concentrate the stormwater coming off the site beyond its existing condition. So when Coleman Street is extended to the north, they will put in stormwater swales that will be adequately sized. There is a depression where most of the water in this area actually heads a little bit towards the middle to the northern third of it, where that water would be disposed of in dry wells. And then we would be looking at the southern end of it as well to make sure that the water is captured in stormwater swales before it goes into the existing developed portion.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Okay. Thank you for your time.
All right. You got anything else, Justin? All right, invite the applicant up. All right, name for the record, please.
Merle Van Houten. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm here tonight before you to request the annexation of approximately 5 acres at the southwest corner of Fisher and Chase and subsequent subdivision of 20 lots. This is done on behalf of the William Guy Living Trust. They are the owners. And I'd like to first thank Justin for his presentation as well as Rob. I felt like they gave really good info, represented the project well and what we're out to do. So I'm going to first start with kind of the overview of existing conditions, go through city maps, talk about what is planned in the city's eyes for this development, and then we'll go into our proposal of how we plan to bring that to fruition, and then finally we'll end up looking at some ground level views of the surrounding area. So here we are with the aerial of existing conditions. As I said, we're sitting on the southwest corner of Chase and Fisher. You can see that to the east of us is undeveloped farmland. To the south and in other bordering eastern areas, we have R1, and off to the west, we have the R1S. And this starts to kind of paint the picture that Justin was talking about, and Rob. We see that Coleman Street currently dead ends into our subject parcel. For some reason the mouse with me. The mouse cursor isn't going here, so I'll try and do my best to describe without that. Here, got a pointer. Does that work? There we go. So Coleman Street dead ends into the subject parcel. So what we have is the contemplation that one day it'll come through, because we need, as this property develops, a second point of ingress and egress. As you heard, that emergency access was only contemplated to be temporary. There was never an intention for a permanent access point on Chase Road. Fisher Avenue is a minor collector, whereas Chase is a minor arterial. Therefore, Fisher has the lower classification. The road must punch through to Fisher. So when you envision a road punching, in this case Coleman, punching through to Fisher, the alignment is more or less defined, and we can envision that it's going to have residential lots on both sides, much like what we see in North Chase Place to the south of us. So it's really a template. The template has been set by the way North Chase Place was created, and what we're out to do is create the first edition. So with that, we'll take a look at the zoning map. We now know that there's a more or less predetermined alignment for Coleman and more or less, designated lot areas for our development. But the question becomes, how many lots, what density are we going to achieve with our subject parcel of almost 5 acres? As we look to the zoning map to help us determine that, we can see that the logical choices for us to choose from here based on surrounding established uses are R1 or R1S. Again, due to the alignment of Coleman Avenue running right up the middle of the subject property, the R1S lot type would not be really a good choice here. It's not a good fit. So again, we're going to stick with the template of North Chase Place and request an R1 development. As we look at how that complies with the future land use map, we see that we are solidly in the yellow low-density residential area. This contemplates all types of single-family residential uses, up to 8 dwelling units per acre. And you'll see I've listed out the implementing zones, and the R1 is one of those. The focus area, we are in the central Prairie, without going into too much detail here. Again, it's stressing the need for single-family housing, and you can see that we are solidly in that zone as well. Traffic. Here's the traffic master plan. As I said, Fisher is a minor collector, Chase is a minor arterial. We have Coleman Street, which is a public local residential road. So as we connect through to Fisher Avenue, you can see that the residents on Coleman Road, both the established subdivision and the new subdivision, are quickly going to come out onto Chase Road and either travel north to Prairie or south to the highway or city center. There won't really be any other residences that you ever utilize Coleman Road. It's this subdivision and the one to the south. So now that we've kind of been through the city's plans, we can see that quick look at the annexation map. We're requesting our lot plus the adjacent portions of Chase and Fisher to come into the city's property to develop a subdivision layout that looks like this. 20 lots total, 10 on each side. We are within, or we are exceed the minimum lot size of 6,500 that is set by the R1 zone. Most of these lots are 62 by 105, which if you do the math comes out to 6,510 square feet. That comes out to a density of about 4 lots per acre. The comprehensive plan says that the low density residential area should be no more than 8, so we're half of that. The extension of Coleman Street to Fisher Avenue is drawn in with roadside swales, sidewalk, just your local standard residential roads without any requests for deviation to what the public standard is. Frontage improvements will occur to both Chase and Fisher. Chase will feature a continuation of that multi-use path, and Fisher will gain curb and some sidewalk. Here's the profile section of that same thing, and this is what Rob was talking about, where we were first identified some issues with the coverage over the sewer, and then we worked with the city engineering department to address those. So we've found a solution to have all lots served through the existing sewer main stubbed for this subdivision at the end of Coleman Street. Water will be served by East Green Acres Irrigation District. They too have left a stub at the end of Coleman Street. We will pick that up. We will run it through our development, and we will connect it to the main and Fisher. Road sections, again, what you see here at the top is Coleman Street. It's what we're proposing for the subdivision. It's an exact match of what exists on the southern portion of Coleman, which is an exact match of the city's local residential road. We are not requesting any deviations. This is the road that's seen all over the city of Post Falls. Chase Road is that minor arterial. Fisher is that minor collector. When we develop those, they will comply with those standards that you see before you. We are not requesting any deviations. So bringing that down to the street level. On the left, you see the dead end of Coleman in its current condition. You can see clear through to Fisher Avenue in the background. This road will just continue its alignment straight through. Coleman, if we turn around 180 degrees and look the other way, there's the development that will be continuing. And so what you see is rolled curb, driveway approaches and swales separated by sidewalk. Your typical subdivision. We will have the same cross-section, the same density. It will be a very similar product. Moving over to Chase, you can see here we're looking from our subject property down Chase Avenue. Our project is in the foreground. That emergency access road is kind of mid-picture, and the fully developed section of Chase Road extends into the background of the picture. So you can see how Chase was widened in the past to the west. We will pick that up and continue with that section. So there will be an extension of the road, a nice wide green swale, and then a multi-use path that extends through. And that,
Merle,
yes,
before you move,
Yeah.
can I ask you a question?
as long as this time-wise is okay.
Because you got that picture up there.
Sure.
So you see the trees underneath the power lines?
Yes, I do.
Like across from Ron Jacobson's house there on Chase, they had to cut the trees in half. Is there a way with this that we could put trees that don't, those trees right there are like 3 years away from starting to have to be cut when they get into that.
Yeah.
And the ones like by Ron Jacobson's house, I mean, you see how they're in half now. I guess we could put that, something in this type of trees so it doesn't go up there around that, and then we have flat trees.
Bobby, we have,
Some of those trees are fairly old, maybe there before we coordinated our urban forestry. So when we do our construction plans, that we look at the tree type and they coordinate that with the urban forester to mitigate potential conflicts. I would presume that would occur equally with this when they go to their construction plans, involve the urban forester at picking appropriate trees along that roadway.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, and that's typical of our experiences. We go through the design review process and address issues like that. So, okay. We can come back to this picture anytime, but I'm going to keep moving on. Okay,
You're
great.
good.
Okay. Moving over to Fisher. Again, we can see what the developed condition looks like in the background. Our property is in the foreground. So you see here there's not quite the widening exercise that's going on, but we will be setting curb, swale, and sidewalk, like consistent with what you see in the background. So the end result will be a nice pedestrian connectivity of those two streets through to the Chase and Fisher intersection. Okay, so with all that in mind, the request before you tonight is twofold: annexation and subdivision. So what I have up right now is the annexation decision criteria. There are 3 of them. And Justin went through these as well, but I'll take a quick minute to do so myself. Number 1, is the proposed zoning district consistent with the future land use map and focus area? We saw that R1 is an implementing zone, and that the central Prairie focus area encourages single-family house with a variety of types and densities. So I think we checked those boxes pretty easily. 2, is the proposed zoning district consistent with the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan? There are quite a few, so I just picked a few to maintain. Number 2, goal number 2 is maintain and improve the provision of high-quality, affordable, and efficient community services. So this is an infill development of single-family homes in an established residential area, and we are providing vehicular and pedestrian connectivity. So it's, in my mind, pretty I don't know, non-confrontational. It seems like this is what was contemplated as Coleman Street was laid out originally. Main goal number 6 is maintain and improve Post Falls transportation network on pace and in concert with needs and plan objectives. So as we discussed, all streets will be improved to city standards. We are not requesting any deviation whatsoever. And I thought it was interesting to note in the staff report, the current operating capacities of the roads were listed, So according to the city's engineering staff, the Chase Road is currently operating at 25% capacity, Fisher at 20, and Coleman at 8% of its capacity. So we are well below any kind of negative impacts or reaching capacity that exceeds the designated road type. Policy number 8, encourage compatible infill development and redevelopment of vacant and underutilized properties. So this is a very easily infill development. It's going to have single-family homes that are compatible with the surrounding uses. And policy number 9 is encourage annexation of county islands. Similar to the previous one about infill developments, this is most definitely an island that is ripe for infill. And finally, number 3, does the proposed zoning district create demonstrable adverse impact upon delivery of services? We've spoken with the city, the water district, and several other purveyors, and everybody is willing and capable to serve this project. Those are the annexation criteria. I'll finish with the subdivision criteria and then open it up to questions. So these 6 are what we will be deciding the subdivision application on. Number 1 is definite provision has been made for a water supply system. We have a well-served letter from East Green Acres saying that they will serve 20 lots on this property. Adequate provisions have been made for public sewage system. We've, as you heard from Rob Paulus, discussed the sewage system at length and have found suitable solution to serve the project. Number 3 is proposed streets are consistent with the transportation element of the comprehensive plan. According to the staff report, this project will not have a negative impact on local transportation system, and it improves access for residents and emergency vehicles for properties along Coleman Street. Number 4, all areas of the proposed subdivision which may involve soil or topographical conditions presenting hazards have been identified. We have not identified any, or none are known at this time. Number 5, the area proposed for the subdivision is zoned for the proposed use and conforms to other requirements found in this code. As we've established, we are compliant with the future land use map, the focus area, and other parts of the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. And finally, the developer has made adequate plans to ensure that the community will bear no more than its fair share of costs. Yes, the developer does understand the costs associated and is prepared to pay those fees. So I hope that this has demonstrated, how we've checked the boxes and achieved compliance with both the annexation and subdivision criteria. And I'm going to say thank you for your time and turn it over to you for questions.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Can you go back to slide 15, I think it is?
15 was that one?
Yeah, this one. And this is more clarification just for everybody here. While the title of this hearing is annexation and subdivision, what we're looking at tonight is the actual zone that, if approved and annexed by city council, that will make a zoning recommendation for that. So really that should probably say zone change decision criteria and not technically annexation, even though it could lead to annexation. I just wanted to clear that up for everybody. Obviously, we're looking at the subdivision, which is the breaking up of that piece of land. But I just want to do that. That is a big confusion. Planning and zoning looks at zoning and subdivision, and then city council will then say, okay, well, can we annex this in? What was the zoning recommendation? What the subdivision look like? Does it make sense? So that's a separate hearing that city council will have. But I just wanted to do that for clarification purposes.
Just one more little bit of clarification there. So what he's saying is that we don't decide if this property gets annexed into the city here tonight. We recommend to the city council, if they do decide to annex this property in, should it be multifamily? Should it be apartments? Should it be duplexes? Should it be R1? What would be the best use for the property? And so that's what we're doing here tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool, thanks. Slide 10. What am I looking at here? I'm not an engineer. Is this like crossed or down or?
Yeah, so
Both.
the top window is a plan view, and then the bottom view is that it's turned on its side. It's a profile of the road. So the dashed lines is the existing grade. If you can follow the dashed lines from left to right, you see that the terrain actually declines as we head towards Fisher Avenue.
Bottom
Which-
one's the sewer pipe.
Yeah, which works against us because the sewer pipe is ascending.
Yeah,
So we identified that early on and you know, worked with the city to just come to a solution that would get us to serve these lots. So what you see that kind of undulates along with that dash line is a solid line. That would be the finished road grade. So you can see as it kind of nears Fisher Avenue, it's raising by about 2 feet above existing grade. And that's what we determined we'd have to get those last couple, maybe 4 to 6 lots to do to get that cover. So that's what you're looking at. We've identified the solution with sewer that engineering is accepting. And I'll also point out while we're looking at this that in regard to the stormwater concern, you know, this depicts the topography declining and flowing towards Fisher and not, you know, back towards Coleman.
Yeah, looks like you have a low point right in the middle, so all the stormwater go right to the middle.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Then the HOA letter that's in the packet, I don't know if you've seen that, but some of it's relevant for you. You've at least seen it, and you, obviously, I think we've talked a lot, most of everything in there. Some of which haven't, like the dust particles, depending on the time of year of construction, that may or may not be even an issue. But I wanted to make sure that you're aware of those items that are in there.
Yeah, yes, I had a chance to read it. I actually have it right in front of me here, and you know, I commend them for voicing their concerns. I think that we can address most of these. There are some of them, like the dust concern, where, you know, that's kind of, you know, up to the contractor to practice good exercise and outside of our control tonight. So I'm happy to address any of those that I haven't yet, but I believe that we've established that Coleman Street is intended to punch through, that we will, you know, Rob spoke to the emergency access issue. We just demonstrated that the terrain is dropping away from their development and not running towards their development. So, again,
Mr. Van Hout, can you go to your last slide of your subdivision criteria there?
yeah, this one.
Yeah, so this is an important one to me, number 6. The developer has made adequate plans to ensure that the community will bear no more than its fair share of costs. So the multi-use path along
Yes.
Chase,
Okay,
so who's going to pay for that path?
the developer.
But it's for everybody.
It's for everybody. So yes, when we improve both Chase and Fisher, you know, we dedicate right away to achieve the compliance with the designated road type. And then the developer is the one who, let's go back to this one because it's got the most drastic change. We're looking at Chase again. The developer, oh look, the cursor's working. The developer will be the one who widens, you know, places additional asphalt to widen the road to that minor arterial, constructs the curb, I worked for a little bit, constructs curb, you know, builds swale, plants trees, installs pathway. Those are all costs of the developer.
There's a lot of costs.
It is. Yes.
And will the developer still have to pay impact fees?
So, I mean, my understanding, Rob wants to talk about how the city is. Oh, okay.
The answer is, yeah, with each building permit, you would still pay impact fees.
And pathway fees, even though they're building the pathway.
Yeah, because, yeah, they'd be paying the park, streets,
Yeah,
impact
so
fees.
sounds-
Because these are the adjacent improvements that are done with all development.
Sure.
The impact fees go to more regional type impacts when it comes to the transportation.
But they're, yeah, so, but it sounds like the developer's paying a lot of expense and a lot of fees.
There's a lot of frontage on this project.
Any other questions? Cool, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Public testimony? All right. Not wishing to speak in favor, Donald Smock Jr. Neighborhood provides additional and much-needed options for new home buyers. Wishing to speak, neutral, Frank Pratt. That is, you were the author of the letter in the email. Yeah. Name for the record, and you have 4 minutes. I believe the timer should be on there. I don't know if
Thank
we-
you. My name is Frank Pratt, and I'm the president of the homeowners association that owns that piece of property, and we intend not to cooperate with that piece of property because we feel strongly that the street should not go through, in that the intersection next to Mr. Wilhelm's house and ours, we've had numerous close calls, no matter what the city engineer says. It's dangerous because people come around that blind curve at high speeds, and then the short distance from Chase to Coleman is a very short place. So if somebody turns the corner, by the time you've looked here, you start to go, I've had cars almost hit me, so it's not a great place to go. So adding traffic there is a terrible idea. The other thing that is concerning to me because of my past profession, I used to mitigate after damages where water would come up and the drainages weren't adequate, even though they were designed to be adequate. I took 4 feet of water out of a hotel because they added some swales that weren't adequate. We took 10 feet of water out of 38 buildings in Colorado State University when the swales weren't adequate. So personally, I really want to make sure that there's a green spot between the two developments so that water cannot egress and into ours, because our swales already fill full and we cannot accept any more water from the place to the north. So that's our concern. So, any questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, you started with the first thing on that you're not going to cooperate with the city. Don't they already, I heard they already have,
We've never seen that, and nobody's approached us on that, and we pay taxes on that piece of property.
I believe it was done before you guys were there, probably.
I think that can be taken offline and looked at. This is obviously just one
Yeah, because
small
we've
step.
been paying taxes when that piece of property was quick deeded to us by the developer, and we've been paying taxes and having maintenance done on that road and all of the weeding and stuff done. So this is the first we've heard of it. I'm very disappointed that somebody hasn't approached us before. And so right now, we are going to stand firm until somebody comes and makes nice to us. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wishing to speak, yes. Neutral, Douglas Williams.
Yeah, my name's Douglas Williams, and my main concern was that the plat would do a cul-de-sac at Fisher instead of punching through. And now that I see the plat, thank you for clearing that up for me. I'm always in favor of getting rid of weeds, so I'm not against that being developed. I'm a former farmer, and I always like to see weeds go away. My only other concern is the traffic issue at Coleman and Grange. If you go back to the original Grange plan, was not to even connect to Chase Road, but now you guys have made that a through street, and punching through to Fisher on Coleman is a great idea, because people that go to McGuire may take that route to Fisher rather than hightail it through Grange. I live in the Meadows, and I see people just barreling through there. So you guys have made that a through street, and my concern is the traffic safety. Yes, please put a stop sign at Coleman, and maybe even Genesec, and there's not even one at Staples. So you need to think about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wishing to speak yes in opposition, Deb Saunders.
Good evening. I'm Deb Saunders. I live at 1216 West Grange in the Meadows. I am the HOA president and director of the Meadows Association. We have received the letter that the North Coleman people have done, and we are in agreement with their concerns. We have further concerns, however. Mr. Paulus is well aware of the traffic on Grange now. We've had several studies done, 1,000 cars a day. That was not expected when they pushed Grange through, but that's the reality of it. I'm also concerned that when the property across the street from this, where the farm is now, comes before you, and you put another, what do you think in there, 20 acres, 25? That traffic comes down Grange. They do not go to Fisher. They will come through Grange. So that is our true concern, is that you are adding way more traffic to Grange than you should have had, or we should have had. There are 3 streets there that come together with no stop signs. We've asked the traffic department in the past to put a stop sign at Staples, where also no stop sign exists now. So the traffic concern here is real. I'm sure that it meets the criteria for annexation. I know that the islands are something that you want to bring into the city, and I don't think we're opposed to that, but certainly the traffic, we stand in opposition to that. Also on the north side, and maybe the developer can help me understand this, where that swale is going to go along Fisher, it's going to abut the property at the Meadows. Who's paying for that irrigation system? Anybody know? We pay for ours and our water usage and the mowing and the maintaining of it. Is there going to be a new HOA association who will assume that after the developer puts it in? So if you make the recommendation for annexation, I hope that you will bring these concerns to the city council because they are real. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, the applicant's representative, Merle Van Houten. Did you want to speak in favor or just want to go into rebuttal? Okay. All right. I think that's all the public testimony we have, so we'll have the applicant come up for 4 minutes of rebuttal.
So, all right, well, when time starts, and we'll start by kind of revisiting the letter from the Chase Place HOA. I think we've addressed a lot of those tonight already, but as we heard testimony, there was concerns about, well, first, let's talk about the swales that should not fill. I don't know that what we're proposing will have any additional impact. That it seems like if the swales of their subdivision are overflowing and they're built to city standards, then there's something wrong that needs to be addressed through their development. If all local residential roads in the city of Post Falls were failing in the way they're describing, then we'd see flooding throughout the city. So I feel like, you know, what we're here to discuss tonight is, are we meeting the city's criteria, and we are building a public road to their standard. As far as the traffic goes, that seems to be the main issue, and again, it seems like there are a lot of concerns with the surrounding area. Let me back up to a map here. Okay, so I think as you're trying to decide tonight, if we meet the criteria of, for annexation and subdivision, we need to be mindful of, what exactly this subdivision particularly is going to do for the city versus what is, happening in a broader picture. And I think that as you look at this particular subdivision and the 20 lots we're proposing, some of which will utilize that Coleman, South Coleman Street, and some will venture further to Fisher. What we're talking about tonight is a relatively negligible impact. And I don't want to just negate the concerns of the surrounding community. I believe they are valid, and I believe they are issues that should be discussed with the city engineering department and not made a part of our decision tonight. And similarly, as people have concerns about the 25 acres to the east, that's a discussion for another day. That I think that's a very valid concern, but it does not really have any bearing on the decision that we are asking you to make tonight. So we can go back to these criteria, annexation criteria. I feel like we solidly meet those 3. Subdivision criteria, those are the 6 that you will be asked to decide your decision or base your decision on tonight. And so, before I do wrap it up, I will say that the irrigation and maintenance of the swales along Chase and Fisher will be provided by the HOA of this new development. So, but with that, I'm happy to answer questions that may help you come to a conclusion on the criteria before you.
I'm good.
Okay.
I have a question. I think that Warren would have to answer it, a legal question.
Chris, you mean?
Do we want to see if we can get him here?
I mean,
Chris.
Yeah.
Sure.
For the stop signs, could we put in here, this subdivision is north.
Commissioners, an issue's come up, and can we recommend we let's finish the public hearing part of it and then take a break?
Okay.
I have to discuss something, and then I want to revisit whatever you're about to ask. Okay, Rob? Does that work?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's finish up with the applicant, then take a 5-minute break so I can take a call,
Okay.
and then let's reconvene.
Sure.
Okay.
Anything else?
That is all for me.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, we'll take a brief recess. 10-minute? 10-minute.
Close public hearing?
Oh,
Close the hearing.
let's close the hearing first. Thank you. Close the hearing first. Now we're taking a 10-minute recess.
We can reopen if needs be.
All right, call the meeting back to order. Thanks for everybody's patience. We had to talk about something. All right. Before we go into the criteria for deliberations, Bobby has something he wanted to just add here real quick.
I thought I was far enough away from all this, what's going on, where I didn't have to disclose I live on Grange. So, full disclosure, I live on Grange. I go through that street every day, go right by Coleman. I have no financial interest in any of this. I don't know I know who owns that property, but I don't know who's developing it. It's not going to change the way I'm going to vote or anything, but just want full disclosure that I live on Grange.
All righty, thank you. With that being said, we'll look at the zone change review criteria first.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Before you tonight is the North Chase zoning recommendation 25-8. The applicant has requested an R1 zoning designation upon successful annexation by the City Council should they decide to do so. Number one, is the proposed zoning district consistent with the future land use map and focus area contained in the currently adopted comprehensive plan?
So the currently adopted comprehensive plan has that area designated as low-density residential. R1 zone is an implementing zone in that designated, under that land use designation. And it fits the criteria outlined in the focus area as well.
And to be clear, that the designation for that area does allow other densities? I mean, it could be a higher density.
Could be a higher
The R1
density.
it tends to be one of the lower densities as an implementing zone.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, R1 is typically a 2 to 5 units per acre type of a development, and that low-density residential allows up to 8 units per acre. So this is less than what it could be.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Number two, for the zoning recommendation, is the proposed zoning district of R1 consistent with the goals and policies contained in the comprehensive plan that are relevant to the area under consideration?
There's policy 8 speaks to prioritizing infill development, which this is. Policy 9 speaks towards prioritizing annexation of county islands, which this is. It is completely, it is part of an area that's completely surrounded by city. Policy 24 speaks towards protecting transportation corridors for development, which includes Chase and Fisher. So as part of this annexation, the right-of-ways for both Chase and Fisher will be dedicated and given to the city for free. And the right-of-way improvements upon any future development, like a subdivision, will also be done at no charge to the taxpayer.
I would add also policy 26, which is maintain and improve the continuity of sidewalks, trails, and bicycle paths. Policy 27, work to improve street connectivity, walkability, public health, safety, transportation. Policy 33, which is also under annexation, should help implement post-falls transportation plans with the completion and preservation of circulatory patterns and pedestrian ways.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Finally, the consideration of the demonstrable adverse impact upon the delivery of any service by a political subdivision.
There's
None noted.
None noted in the staff report.
And this is, what we're talking about here is just if city council approves an annexation, what is the zoning that we recommend? And that's what this criteria here is going to, is does that R1 zone represent a demonstrable adverse impact? I just want to clarify that.
Thank you, Commissioner Schreiber. And the way I'd look at this is, if this was R1 versus a commercial district, would there be a demonstrable adverse impact for one versus the other? Usually we rely on the agencies to let us know, yeah, don't do R2 here because of a special consideration.
Right. I mean, the key word there is demonstrable, right? No one's demonstrated any impact.
Yes. Agreed.
Thank you.
We're gonna do a motion now. I'd like to make a motion on the zone change.
I can make a motion. I move to recommend approval of ANNX 25-8, finding that the requested R1 zoning meets the approval criteria in Post Falls Municipal Code 18.20.100 as outlined here in our deliberation, and direct city staff to prepare a zoning recommendation to be provided to City Council with the items that were noted in the staff report to be considered. So those were, item number 1 was dedication of rights of way along Chase. Item number 2 was dedication of a sidewalk, drainage, and utility easement along Chase. Item number 3 was dedication of rights of way along Fisher. And item 4 was dedication of sidewalk, drainage, and utility easement along Fisher.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor
Second.
and a second. Roll call, please.
Schlauer,
Yeah.
Wilhelm,
Yeah.
Carey,
Yes.
Kimball,
Yes.
Schreiber,
Yes.
Stephenson.
Yes. Now we look at the subdivision criteria.
Sorry. All right, and the second action item on the North Chase subdivision, 25-8, we have the review criteria for approval or denial of a subdivision. So number 1 discusses whether definite provision has been made for water supply that is adequate for the subdivision proposed.
Yes, it has been.
Yes.
Acres.
Each Green Acres
Green Acres.
provided a will-serve letter.
Okay, and let's moving on to number 2. Adequate provisions for the public sewage system and that the existing municipal sewer system can accommodate the proposed sewer flows. There was a little bit of discussion on this item as well.
Yeah, but they've corrected what issues they had, and the city can provide adequate sewer.
Yeah, I think a optimal solution was figured out between city and the developers, engineers.
So in the staff report, they included condition number 14 that talked about that talked specific to sewer standards. I understand that there is a solution on the table that maybe came up after the staff report, but is there a reason that we should leave that in there as a condition just in case?
I don't think it hurts. I mean, they've already come up with a solution, so leaving it in there also gives them the option to, if for whatever reason that solution, they figure out that it doesn't work for some reason,
Yeah,
it gives them another option to go north.
Okay.
because that lift station's going in one way or the other, so.
Yeah, and commissioners, I think that the condition, it discusses both. I think the proposed engineering solution was the elevation of the lots as discussed, and I think that's what 14 contemplates.
Perfect.
In an if-or type of a condition.
Okay.
Okay, so it sounds like we've discussed number 2, the sewage system has been addressed. Number 3, streets, proposed streets are consistent with the transportation element of the comprehensive plan.
So with Chase being a minor arterial and being widened, as well as Fisher, that takes care of the transportation element and providing connectivity to the north, and eliminating a dead-end street within the city's transportation system meets that great transportation element.
I voiced my concerns about the stop signs, and Rob Paulus addressed that, how it's supposed to be done. You know, if there's problems there, so that would have to be done at a later time.
One thing that comes up for me when we're talking about transportation is if this project is developed, I'm not exactly sure what the impact will be, but I'm guessing that the impact of widening and improving on Fisher and on Chase is going to potentially alleviate some traffic on these other side streets. Because it's wider, you're going to have sidewalks, bike paths and so forth on both. I'm not sure that that completely offsets concerns about traffic on the interior residential roads. But my understanding is that's kind of part of the overall plan for the city, is as those larger roads get improved, it helps on the side roads. Just opening that up, if anybody had thoughts.
I mean, I think it's important to understand that when development of corner parcels happens, the city gets a lot more bang, if you will, out of it because of instead of a 5-acre parcel that's in the middle of a block where they do 330 feet of frontage improvements on a collector, this one has 330 feet of frontage improvements on a collector and 660 feet on an arterial. So, the amount of infrastructure widening that the city gets, and, it's one of these things we don't get to do it all at once, unless the city wants to actually buy the property and then build it, and that comes out of taxpayer money versus if someone comes forward with a development, then they get the opportunity, the developer pays for it out of their pocket, and they still pay impact fees. So, even though it is piecemeal, it comes in, little bits and pieces at a time. It's taking small bites, but eventually, you get the whole apple.
Well, and I was looking at too, this is almost a 5-acre piece. And they're putting 20 lots on there, or proposed to put 20 lots on there that are about 6,500 square feet apiece. That means they're giving up almost 2 acres of a 5-acre lot to improve this property. And granted, some of that is going to be HOA maintained and owned potentially. But that's a lot of dedication, because it's both of the frontage roads, it's Chase and it's Fisher, but it's also building Coleman at 44 plus feet wide. That's a substantial hit to a 5-acre piece. Just a thought.
I think completing Coleman's, that's a big advantage for the emergency services. That street was always meant to be there. The city and the Phase 1 developer clearly made a compromise and put in this access off of Chase, which is not a great access. And that was a benefit to the developer and thereby the people that ultimately bought those lots. It was something nice the city did to work with these folks. But, now we have the opportunity to complete the street, do it right, give better access for EMS, and I think it's a big improvement.
All right, thank you. Number 4.
Thank you, Commissioners. All areas of the proposed subdivision involving topographical or soil conditions presenting hazards have been identified.
I don't think there were any identified.
Yeah, I don't think there was any testimony on that issue.
Well, the only topographical thing that came up was we were talking about stormwater drainage and so forth. But legally, they have to address any stormwater that's on the property regardless.
Number 5, the area proposed for the subdivision is zoned for the proposed use, and the use conforms to the other requirements found in this code. And this one's a little bit tricky since this would all be conditioned upon actual annexation by the council.
And so that's not a condition of approval listed in our 1 through 14, but I'm assuming it's kind of null and void because if it doesn't get annexed, then it's, I guess the only condition would be that it's annexed at R1.
Yeah, for most of those, Commissioner Kimball, I've struggled with whether or not to include that as a condition in there itself. If it doesn't get zoned in for the approval, then it is a nullity. But I agree, it's a conditional annexation for the R1 zoning.
Okay.
And finally, whether the developers made adequate plans to ensure the community will bear no more than its fair share of costs by paying fees, furnishing improvements, or other.
And that's done through impact fees as well as their frontage improvement, excuse me, frontage improvements.
Frontage improvements per acre are very large on this parcel, so there's a lot of benefit to the city, free of charge.
And when, at present time, our impact fees are adding up to more than the land cost. So this is significant.
All right.
Thank you, Commissioners. I would note in one of the conditions, 13 discusses street trees planted by the developer. I know there was some testimony about the height of trees. It does have that requirement that the urban forestry notified on the planting issue for the trees in that area.
Right. And I'd also note that condition 12 speaks towards that the homeowner association is required to do, to maintain and irrigate the frontage improvements on both Fisher and Chase, which addressed another concern of the public.
Thank you.
Who would like to make a motion?
Before we make a motion,
Yeah.
when we do make the motion, in item, or in condition number 12, we've got the homeowners association shall be formed and responsible for landscaping, irrigation, maintenance of common rights of way, frontages, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I do want to add in there that the homeowners association shall set up some form of a reserve account for capital repairs and replacements.
Isn't that a part of the agreement?
No,
That's not,
I want to put it in there as a condition. And I know we argue this every time we have one of these, but I think it should be in there, even if the city can't or enforce it or ensure that it's there. I think we need to at least put it in as a condition.
Where did we end up with that? Because I know that was brought up to council. Was there other discussions within the city?
There hasn't been a lot of discussion on this issue. I know that we've talked about it and discussed whether or not they are appropriate to put in there. Usually, like I said, we'd like these conditions to address something in the subdivision approval that is mitigating the adverse impacts upon adjacent development. So if the condition is to create a reserve account for the HOA, which we are requiring anyway to maintain it, I think it can be justified from a bigger policy argument. Rather than dealing with these on an ad hoc basis, my suggestion would be for us to codify that, put it in our code as a subdivision approval criteria, so we don't hit or miss on these ones. But I think it is supportable, given that we're already having the HOA maintain these items.
I just think it has to be in there until we have it in our code. I think we need to at least make an attempt here. And it's not, it is for the greater good of the city. I don't want these things coming back because nobody's maintaining the common area, because this huge assessment comes up because there's no reserve fund set aside for repaving the multi-use pathway or adding, replacing the entire irrigation system. That's expensive.
Won't those be, the multi-use path and the streets will be city
The
facilities,
streets,
won't
yes.
Streets and the path would be city, but the
So
irrigation system would be on the HOA.
they? Yeah, so that's more of an ongoing
And
maintenance item.
there's been at least one HOA or some formation of HOA that's gone to city council that's having big troubles, and it just wasn't formed correctly years ago. So I'm in favor of this. I definitely still think the city council and the city, we need to have more conversations on that, but that's for another day. But if we want to put it in for tonight, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, a more general HOA structure perhaps.
So, with that being said,
Put her in there if you want to make the motion.
It's a long motion. Did you want to do that? You want me to make that motion? I move to approve, and how are we referring to this as a, here we go.
recommended approval, if you're going to approve it.
No, this would be for the subdivision approval.
Okay. So I move to approve subdivision number, so it's SUBD-25-8, finding that it meets the approval criteria in Post Falls Municipal Code 17.12.060 as outlined in our deliberation, and subject to the conditions in the staff report, which are conditions 1 through 14, adding to condition 12 that the homeowners association establish a reserve account for capital repairs and replacements, and direct staff to prepare a written decision.
All right. A
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Stephenson,
Yes.
Schreiber,
Yes.
Kimball,
Yes.
Prairie,
Yes.
Wilhelm,
Yes.
Schlottenbauer.
Yes.
All right, so we have a zoning recommendation that'll be forwarded to City Council of R1 and an approved subdivision that will also, actually, that is all pending on the annexation that goes to, along with the zoning, that will go to City Council at a future meeting. All right. Next on the agenda, unless somebody needs a break, anybody breaks? Good? Cool. Mullan Annexation, ANX-25-7. We'll open up that public hearing.
Hello again, Planning Commission. Justin Souter, and we have the Mullan Avenue annexation, file number ANX-25-7. The applicant is requesting the Planning and Zoning Commission to forward a zoning recommendation to the City Council for community commercial services on approximately 4.39 acres as part of an annexation request into the City of Post Falls. The applicant is Angie McPhee, and she's here representing the North Idaho Surgical Hospital Building Land Holdings, LLC. Here is the project site in the red hash. You can see it's north of East Mullan Avenue. It's about 675 feet east of the intersection of Mullan and Syringa. And there are two parcels on this request. They are both currently have a single-family home on them, so more accurately, the project address would be 1609 and 1641 East Mullan Avenue. The property is not currently within the city and therefore does not have a zoning designation. The properties to the north and east are not within the city limits and are developed with single-family homes. The properties directly to the south across Mullan Avenue are within the Community Commercial Services designation and contain businesses that provide different medical services. The property directly to the west is undeveloped and within the CCS zone as well. The property further to the west on the corner of Syringa and Mullan also contains a building providing medical services and is owned by the North Idaho Surgical Building Land Holdings, LLC, so the same property owner and applicant for this annexation. The applicant is requesting a zone designation of CCS. As you can see on the map, there are several properties within the immediate vicinity that are within the CCS. That's the red that you see. I also want to note that there are two parcels that surround this property. You can see here there's one property that's not a part, so the parcel to the west kind of jogs around and goes behind.
And Commissioner Wilhelm, you don't live in that not apart property?
I actually own right next, never mind.
So I just wanted to point that part out, so just to be clear. Each of the two parcels that are part of this request have a single-family home on them currently. The water supply would be from Ross Point Water District. Wastewater would be provided by the city. And for traffic, Mullan Avenue is classified as a minor arterial, and additional rights-of-way and easements would be required as part of the annexation agreement. For the zone change review criteria, number 1, is the proposed zoning district consistent with the future land use map and focus area contained in the comprehensive plan? The future land use designation of the subject property is business commercial, you can see in the pink, which provides a wide variety of general service, retail, professional office, light industrial, artisan manufacturing, and mixed uses that serve local and regional residents. It also promotes a mixture of moderate to high-density housing types within walking distance of city center, neighborhood center, and commercial corridor uses. The implementing zone district details the breadth and type of uses that would be permitted within the CCS zone, and the CCS zone is an implementing zone district in the business commercial. The site is adjacent to properties with the land use designation of business commercial to the east and west, with low-density residential to the north, and then commercial to the south across Mullan Avenue. The Central Island focus area includes key policies to help guide development in this area, such as promoting landfill, prioritizing annexations, supporting development patterns that are interconnected and provide pedestrian connectivity, and focus commercial along arterial or collector streets with more than 4,000 vehicle trips per day. If the annexation were to be approved, the applicant intends to market the property for sale as a commercially zoned property to create opportunities for a future commercial or a mixed-use development. The proposed CCS zone may be compatible with properties in the immediate vicinity to the west and south, which are within the CCS zone, and contain commercial uses such as medical office buildings, as well as other commercial uses that you find further east and west along Mullan Avenue. The CCS zone could support mixed-use development, which may also be consistent with the residential uses to the north and east, depending on the proposed uses within whatever future project comes about. The request may also be consistent with the focus area, as it talks about promoting infill development and prioritizing annexations in this area. The site is on Mullan Avenue, which is an arterial that already supports a variety of commercial uses and has traffic volumes exceeding 11,000 vehicle trips per day. Moving on to the second review criteria, which states, is the proposed zoning district consistent with the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan? It's consistent with Goal 1, which seeks to grow and sustain a balanced, resilient economy for post-falls and providing community prosperity and fiscal health. The annexation of the property may contribute to a resilient economy by expanding the inventory of commercially zoned land within the city that's able to support business activity and job creation. We've already talked about the proposed zone designation is consistent with the future land use map and may be compatible with the surrounding land uses. And now we're talking about the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. For infrastructure, sanitary sewer is located at the intersection of Syringa and Mullan and would need to be extended to the site at time of development. The existing infrastructure has the capacity for the requested zone and is in conformance with the city's water reclamation master plan. For traffic, Mullan Avenue is classified as a minor arterial and can accommodate future projected traffic volumes related to this annexation request. And with annexation, dedication of rights-of-way and easements are needed to conform with the transportation master plan, which again will be in the annexation agreement. The annexation is also consistent with Goal 7, which seeks to plan for and establish types and quantities of land uses in post-falls, supporting community needs and long-term sustainability. The annexation may support community needs and city's long-term sustainability by providing an area for additional businesses that may support community needs and benefit the city as it continues to grow. The zone change is also compatible with Policy 8, which encourages infill development within city limits, as the site is surrounded by development. And the annexation may encourage development of a property within city limits that is also considered infill, and the CCS zone may help ensure that development is consistent with current uses on Mullan Avenue in the immediate vicinity. It's also consistent with Policy 86, which seeks to work with local businesses to enhance, sustain, and diversify the local economy by supporting opportunities related to business campuses and attracting new businesses. The annexation would allow for the opportunity for the property to be developed with businesses or in a mixed-use style development. The last review criteria, does the proposed zoning district create a demonstrable adverse impact upon the delivery of services? And there have been no identified demonstrable adverse impacts at this time. Here's a list of the agencies that were notified. We received comments back from these 6. They were all either neutral, had no comments, or will comment during the time of development. the criteria once more and the site. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions if you have any.
The little cutout area,
Mm-hmm.
that's just a house that'll stay there?
Yep. That is what is.
Not your house, Bobby.
It's not my house, okay.
So when this, and this is kind of a code question, when the city annexes existing lots, so right here we have 2 existing lots. If those lots don't meet the city requirement for that zone, do we have to accept the lots as they are? In other words, like in this one, my concern is when you have a flag lot like that, and I don't know exactly what our code says on this, but some cities, you have to have a minimum amount of frontage for commercial development. Is that enough frontage for that flag lot to be accepted and developed on its own, separate from that other lot? You know what I mean?
Yeah, John can correct me if I'm wrong, but based on the current lot configuration, we can't preclude developing the parcel. If it was the creation of a new parcel, then it would have to meet city standards.
Yeah, well, the minimum lot size for CCS is 0. Well, that ain't gonna happen.
Well, not.
And so, I mean, and when you contemplate that, there is no minimum lot frontage,
There
so.
is, okay.
So we'd be able to develop it.
Okay, that's all.
That little piece that's got the house on it, then that's going to stay
Correct.
county property, right?
Yeah,
And
until
it's not
such
gonna be
time
annexed.
that whoever there would want to ask the city for an annexation, but until such time, that would be a county fragment that you would not have like the improvements along the north side of Mullan. If they're not there, then that, they would occur at that time. I don't know what the current configuration there.
So if they had to improve Mullan in front of the part that we're annexing in, we wouldn't improve that section too? Is that what you're saying?
If it's, yeah, typically, we have pockets in the city currently that you have longtime holdouts that are county pockets that may or may not ever want to, and based off current state statutes, they can hold out for as long as they want.
Would there be any mechanism to keep if that was annexed also, to keep that use? Or would it be an existing non-conforming
Yeah, pre-existing
use?
non-conforming uses are allowed until such time to redevelop.
Yeah.
A lot of times people are incentivized, they don't want their taxes to go up, so they stay in the county for as
Frontage
long as they
improvements and
desire. and-
taxes. Yeah.
And again, since the city doesn't force annexations, we wait till they come to us.
City's not a big fan of eminent domain.
But it is awkward.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Invite the applicant up. Name for the record, please.
Angie McVie. I represent Nishby in the annexation of 1609 East Mullan and 1641. Justin really did cover everything that I was hoping to have in front of you today. As far as that small lot there, they're just waiting. I've been in conversation with them. They're just waiting for this process to take place to figure out what they are wanting to do. Of course, it would be an increase in value of their property, so that would be their goal. But other than that, Justin did cover everything.
Any questions for the applicant? All righty, thank you. Public testimony? None? All right. No need for rebuttal or anything. All right. Close out the hearing. Move into the, what is it gonna be?
Annexation
Change
criteria?
Yeah. Zone change. Jinx.
Zone zone recommendation.
Yeah.
25-7, Mullan Avenue, 4.39 acres, requested zoning of CCS. 2 parcels surrounding another parcel. Number 1, is the proposed zoning district consistent with the future land use map and focus area?
Future land use map has it as business commercial. That whole area right along Mullan, obviously across the street to the south is already a lot of commercial, but then in that area, it's already in more and more commercial as those lots are being sold.
CCS is an implementing zone in the business commercial land use designation. And it meets a lot of the criteria of the focus area where the development is supposed to focus higher intensity uses along the arterial streets.
And I'd note, Commissioners, that that focus area for the Central Island, again, talks about promoting the infill projects and providing that commercial connectivity, I think from the staff report, if you're all nodding in agreement on that idea as well.
Yes.
Number 2, is the proposed zoning district being CCS consistent with goals and policies in our comprehensive plan?
Yeah, for me, goal 7 jumped out, just establishing types and quantities of land use and post falls that support the city, long-term sustainability, and then kind of your point, policy 8 about the infill in that area.
Yeah. Policy 9 also speaks to annexing county islands, and policy 86 speaks to providing for business opportunities, which adding land in the city at a CCS zoning designation certainly provides for that.
And goal number 1, grow the economy.
Thank you, Commissioners. And finally, any evidence on demonstrable adverse impacts for this proposed zoning district?
Nothing was identified in the report.
Thank you.
All right, there's no further discussion. Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
I move to recommend approval of the Mullan annexation file number, it's ANNX-25-7, finding that the requested CCS zoning meets the approval criteria in Post Falls Municipal Code 18.20.100 as outlined in our deliberation, and direct staff to prepare a zoning recommendation to be provided to City Council.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Wilhelm?
Yes.
Schlotthauer?
Yes.
Prairie?
Yes.
Stephenson?
Yes.
Schreiber?
Yes.
Kimball?
Yes.
All right. That recommendation will be forwarded to City Council. Next item on the agenda. Is it Havenview Annexation and Subdivision? And we'll open up that public hearing. Mr. Manley.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. John Manley, Planning Manager, introducing the Havenview Annexation and Subdivision, file number ANNX 25-9, and the subdivision file SUBD 25-9. The applicant is JUB Engineers. They're representing the owner. I'm not even going to attempt that name. It's Strzax, I guess I did, but Haven Ranch LLC. The requested action is as part of the 41.12 acre annexation request. They're requesting 2 different zones. There's the R1 and R2 zone. The R1 zone, they're asking a recommendation to go forward is for about 22.13, with the R2 being the 19.5. Subdivision request on that land is for about 209 lots, 92 single-family residential lots on the 22, and 117 medium-density residential R2 lots on approximately that 19.5. The location you see for this proposal is where you're seeing that red hatch just to the southeast of the future intersection of Fennicus and Prairie. It's on the east side of the Foxtel subdivision, the future phases of Foxtel, just north of the elementary school. Looking at the proposed zoning in the surrounding area, here's where you can see the proposed R1 portion with the proposed R2. The dividing line is the extension of Prosper Avenue. That's going to be running right through Foxtel and to the north end of Foxtel at that location. Foxtel, you can see what has platted there to the south and southeast. They have a varying size lot pattern with that, so it's a PUD, and that's how they got approved for that mixed R1 type development community, is through a planned unit development. To the southeast, you see a lot of alley-loaded type townhome or alley-loaded homes, and then they have the school, and then they have more traditional R1 lots at that location. So they're transitioning to where it appears to me as an applicant, which they can provide more detail, transitioning from that and continuing that single family to the west and blending to the Foxtail to the east. And it appears as if they recognize that they're transitioning north to a busier road on Prairie Avenue and proposing that R2. The future land use designation is, as you see here, it's transitional. And the way this is made up in the comprehensive plan is you can't foresee when and what and where everything is going to be proposed for consideration. So we coined in the last comp plan a transitional that it punts to the 41 North focus area in this case. So it punts to a focus area. So looking at this area and looking at the 41 North area, it does look to development should provide pedestrian connectivity to all multi-use paths and trails, including the State Highway 41 trail. Focus provisions for multifamily, commercial, and tech uses near higher classified roadways, which we're not near a higher classified roadway, so hence they are proposing more of that single family product. Looking at some of the goals, I'm not going to list every one that's in the staff report. Goal 6 looks at improving the transportation network, which I'll have Rob talk a little bit more about that here in a little bit about how this proposal could achieve that. Looking at different types of quantities of land uses to support community needs is another goal. I'll go back to this R1 and R2. We do know that on the southeast corner of Highway 41 and Prairie, there is going to be a future medical campus there. We do know that there is going to be different commercial services on the northeast corner of that same intersection. And we do know that there are going to be different employers that are going to be in that area. So in order to facilitate those different employment opportunities, diversified housing often seems to be a good nexus into achieving those. We also have in our most recent housing needs analysis the desire to have mixed residential neighborhoods at different densities. Looking at the comprehensive policies, there's policy 24 that kind of dovetails back into that transportation, facilitating getting the right-of-way and the improvements for those connections. The next one, policy 33, really is more pertinent to the annexation decision. And then encourage new development to provide pedestrian access to nearby parks. So going back to, I'll use this slide. Here's their project. You're going to have the extension of Prosper. I do know Foxtel is working on a regional park about this location, and you do have the school. So when you get the improved roads and the multi-use trails connecting this area, you will get some improved connections to those elements. Ultimately, to the east, as those improvements, the staff will be using those same goals and policies to connect to the Prairie Trail eventually, hopefully. This right here is the project site as far as the roadway context. So you can see here the star, that's their project site. You can see here you have the minor collector in yellow, and you have the major collector in purple. So when they do their subdivision, they'll be providing some improvements in those. There's that project location in relation to the city of Post Falls. Here is the 3 review criteria. I've kind of gone over 1 and 2 already, dealing with the future land use map as transitional, what that means, and the focus area. And I've talked about the pertinent goals and policies and related to applying zoning for this. In relationship to did it create demonstrable adverse impact. I didn't hear, there was nothing really on that within the notice. I'll go scoot back to the end here. We did, most everybody was neutral, and then the Highway District reviewed what was submitted, and they said it was consistent with the Transportation Master Plan. Any questions for me regarding the ask for the zoning at this point before we move into the subdivision ask?
Questions?
So here's their subdivision plan. Here's their 209 lots. You can see the red line kind of shows the orientation of that extension of Prosper Avenue from the west. Everything to the north is what they're proposing. There are 2 lots. Everything south of that line was the R1 lots. Here's a more zoomed in, this being the north pointed to the right of that southern leg with the northern leg. Once again, the north being to the right. Staff looked at, is there going to be water provided? We did have a will serve letter in record. I apologize, I did not get this in your staff report, but we did get a will serve letter from Ross Point Water District. This is where I get to invite Rob up because the sewer topic is a little bit convoluted and a little bit lengthy, so I'll have Rob embark on this journey.
Good evening, members of the commission. Robert Paulus, city engineer. And as John summarized it pretty good, it is a convoluted issue with the sanitary sewer. Part of this you have already seen within the last year. The Jacqueline's annexed a portion of land north of Prairie Avenue and east of Fennicus Road, which was a little triangular piece, and we're basically regurgitating that slide from previous. So sanitary sewer in this area, there are 2 sewer surcharges that exist. Everything flows to the 12th Avenue lift station, and the 12th Avenue lift station, we have a force main that we are slowly extending to the wastewater treatment plant. There's also the need for a line which is called the Fennicus Road line, which would extend down Fennicus to Horsehaven Avenue and then to Highway 41. The line in Horsehaven and Fennicus Road south of Hope has not been constructed yet. So a good portion of Foxtail and the property that is currently under consideration, if it was to be annexed, would need to utilize a temporary sewer routing which takes the sewage down to Poline Avenue, then out to Highway 41, and then to the south. At the present time, we're relying upon a sewer study that was done in 2018 that analyzed and said there was enough sewer capacity, and there was a little bit more than that in that temporary line to handle the Foxtail subdivision. We've had about 7 years since that study was done. We've had a lot of growth in that corridor with the Highway 41 widening, Circle K, a number of apartment complexes. We've got the hospital that's being planned to go in. And with all that under consideration, staff has been working with a consultant, and we have a scope laid out. We haven't taken it to City Council for adoption yet, but we would be re-looking at that entire Highway 41 corridor to verify where are we in terms of capacity versus what the model is showing that we should have. And the recommendation is that we don't, well, if the subdivision were to be approved, it would be a condition, and I believe that's the next slide, that we would provide a proposed condition number 13 that says, prior to site development, adequate sewer capacity shall be confirmed in the existing system to serve the development as proposed. We do know that what's being proposed is in line with what the future land use plan is and what we were anticipating in the modeling. We just want to be able to get that model done our best estimate right now is the model update and confirmation of the capacities out there is anticipated late 2026. Any initial questions?
I have a question. So there's a possibility that there would be temporary sewer routing?
So there is a temporary sewer routing that is right over in this area here. And so what we would be doing is confirming that that temporary routing still has enough capacity to handle everything that it's identified for with the growth patterns that we need. It was identified in the staff report that if this land was annexed and at the time it was to be developed, if there's existing capacity available, they would be paying surcharges which would go to help pay for this Fennicus line that runs from Hope Avenue down to Horse Haven and over to Highway 41.
So the cost for, if they, the cost to be put onto a permanent system then would be bared by the developer?
They would be bearing part of that cost with the surcharge, yes.
Okay, thank you.
There is always the opportunity too, if you come back, you do the study and say, hey, these are things that could be considered for mitigation, and if you do A, B, or C, you'd be able to develop faster. That is something that could be considered, but right now that's more of a hypothetical. Until we know what that capacity is and what those potential mitigations are, it's awful difficult to go into greater detail on that.
Thank you.
So, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong here, but as I understand this entire, pretty much everything east of Highway 41, everyone's, since Foxtail started in 2006 or 7, everyone's been throwing money into this pot for this large lift station force main solution that takes care of everything in that vicinity. And so this money's been accumulating. City's been working on spending it, doing piecemeal, just slowly taking bites and bites and bites off of it. And it's kind of like one of those things where in order to get the money to pay for it, you have to get the houses in, so you get the surcharge money so that it all happens. And so in the meantime, you kind of work around, find creative solutions to ensure that the sewer capacity is there. Meanwhile, making sure that you're working towards this solution, this sewer solution that is an ultimate solution that deals with the entire area. Is that
Yeah, to
close?
rephrase it another way, what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring in as much money as we can from the surcharges to build the infrastructure that's needed, while at the same time not putting the public at risk in that we overflow those pipes and run the risk of backflowing into basements or businesses.
Okay.
So we're trying to ride that line.
And the surcharge is above and beyond what someone normally would pay somewhere else in the city.
That is correct. So a typical home is paying over $7,000 per home to connect to the sewer. Out in this area, the homes in Foxtail, they're paying an additional over $4,000 on top of that because of the 12th Avenue surcharge and the Meyer alternative surcharge.
Okay, thank you.
But at the end of the day, if this gets approved, development won't start until it can be documented that there's enough sewer capacity as it develops.
That is correct.
Gotcha.
And what happens if there's not? What if the study says the capacity's not there?
So
does the city have the authority to stop development after a project's been approved?
yes, because approval of a subdivision does not guarantee that there's going to be capacity at the time you actually turn in the construction plans. Where do I want to go with that?
Rob?
Yes.
It's a conditional approval. If they don't meet that condition, and i.e. there is no existing current capacity at the time the development goes forward, then it's retroactively denied. So it's a conditional approval. Either we have capacity or not, but in order to determine capacity, we have to get a current sewer study. So it's both conditioned upon A, a sewer study being done, and B, capacity being identified.
And the other thing that falls in on that too is the city does have two projects that exist that mitigate most of that need. It's just a question of having the funding and when do you hit that threshold to require those projects to go in. That's where the surcharge comes in on that Meyer alternative line. And then the other one is the 12th Avenue surcharge, which is paying for the force main that we've already built the first 3/4 of a mile. Our plan is within the next 2 years, we'll build the next section, which would get us all the ways to Spokane Street. And each section that we build of that 12th Avenue surcharge gives more capacity to the whole basin, but not necessarily to this section in particular. So we've got a number of dynamic issues that we're taking a look at and we're trying to balance.
Okay. Do we have any conditions on the approval in terms of these connecting roads that would go into this specific subdivision?
So,
like Fennicus, Prosper, because right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Fennicus doesn't go far enough north.
So let me
get to this.
discuss what's going on with the roads, because there's a lot going on with that as well. And John, I'm going the wrong way. There we go. All right, so in the area, there's two major things driving transportation in the air. Well, three things are driving transportation. One, you have the hospital complex, which is in design right now. Second item you have going on is the Post Falls Highway District, and the city of Post Falls is also part of the project. We'll be widening Prairie Avenue. Those plans are like 99% done. The only thing that's stopping it from moving forward at this point is there are two properties that have to finish right-of-way acquisition, but the dollars are allocated for construction in 2027 on that project. And that will widen Prairie Avenue to the full 5-lane configuration, complete the missing portions of the Zoros and Prairie and the Fennicus and Prairie roundabouts. For 2026, Architera, who owns the Foxtail development, they are going to be putting in a roundabout at Zoros and Hope Avenue, which would be right here. They will also be extending Zoros Road from Hope up to Prairie, and they'll be extending Fennicus from Hope up to Prairie.
Okay.
Those roads will not be actually put into operation, though, until the Post Falls Highway District project to widen Prairie Avenue is done in 2027. But those roads will be put in place this year. Architero is also under contract with the city. They have to have the park that John mentioned over in this area here on Prosper. That needs to be accessible and in a certain stage of development by the end of 2026. So Architero will be constructing Prosper Avenue between Zoros to Fennicus roadway. So as we go through, and this, some of it draws back into the sanitary sewer, if we're analyzing what's going on with the sanitary sewer over 2026, most of the roads are getting built in 2026. Prairie Avenue is going to be widened in 2027, so late 2027, you're going to have Zoros and Fennicus connected up to Prairie, and that's going to relieve a lot of traffic in the whole Foxtail area for north-south movement. One of the outliers is recently we did a zone change and also brought on an annexation, which, and lost where I'm at, included development over in this area here.
You don't have a pointer on the screen.
Sorry,
So
Rob, we
no
can't see
pointer
any of
on the
this.
screen. Okay. So in the southwest corner of Hope Avenue and Zoros Road for multifamily. And a condition of that multifamily development is to complete the road connection of Hope Avenue from Zoros to Highway 41.
Okay.
When that gets put in, we now have access from the whole Foxtail area to the traffic signal at 41, which will relieve some of the traffic going to Prairie and some of the traffic going down to Pole Line. So there's a lot going on in a small area right now.
So this potential subdivision would have, let's say, at this point, would have 2 access points into Foxtail and one into Hope, or one onto Hope. the one that is on Prosper wouldn't be for a little while. Actually, there's two that go on to Fennicus. But those wouldn't happen until Arcterra finishes Fennicus. So is there any concern about the timing of this versus what Arcterra is doing next to it? So in other words, would this be developed and have these dead-end roads going into a dirt field?
No, there's not a concern about
Okay.
that. Where Arcterra is at and the improvements they are doing, and considering the study that needs to be done on the sewer, those connection points will be able to be made, and the development of this subdivision would have good access to a major collector roadway, Fennicus, major collector roadway, which is Hope Avenue, and that will distribute the traffic from the entirety of this proposed subdivision.
And then just one more question. With Foxtail being approved all the way around this, almost all the way around this, as a PUD, and having multiple parks that are owned by Foxtail homeowners associations or whatever, they're private, and this particular project not having any public space or parks or so forth, is there any concern about all these homeowners utilizing what's in the POD, but it's private property? Do you see what I mean? Like, is there a...
I understand your question. I think that's a more germane question for planning.
Okay.
Or possibly parks. John, do you want to?
The only thing I can see on here is one thing that was missed was currently when we have blocks that are longer or 600 or greater, we're pushing to have a pedestrian access. So you can see like in the lower half on Prosper, the people that live on that west side, if they wanted to go to the west, if you were a pedestrian, you're going to have to walk quite a ways in order to get out westerly. So I generally would encourage a pedestrian access route along the west side, and maybe the applicant can shed light on that. As far as open space and on this, that's how our subdivision regs are set up, is we don't have open space requirements. The trade-off is they pay impact fees, and a proportion of that goes towards the Parks Department to deal with that. Maybe the applicant can shed light on their proposed phasing plan. I think they proposed 6 phases to be done in 6 phases or less, and how that could achieve appropriate pedestrian access to other nearby amenities.
The concern is that my thought process is there are no public amenities in this whole subdivision.
So you do have a public park which is in development, and Arcterra is required to build it, and that's on Prosper Avenue, and that would be approximately 600 feet due west of this project, of this property.
Okay, that was my concern, is that if there's none.
Yeah, if we can go back to that Foxtel and use actually that, we can probably just, go back to more towards the beginning.
Oh.
I think there's one that shows Foxtel out to the west. One more. So, yeah, that'll work. See where it's the R1?
Mm-hmm.
If you go just to the west there's that, and then south of Prosper Avenue, there's a big, rectangular yellow area that's undeveloped or shows undeveloped on here. South of Prosper, west of the R1, in the central located is a large park that's going to be dedicated to the city of Post Falls as a large public park. So getting individuals in the R1 and R2 to the west in an expeditious fashion allows those residents to get to that public open space.
And the minimum threshold for a city park is around 5 acres.
Okay.
Similarly, on the southern end of that R1, if we can get a good north-south connection in the route, that would allow individuals that are walking to the school to get a good expeditious route rather than a circuitous route is generally what we would prefer.
Okay. I was just thinking of that whole kind of block there is almost isolated from the rest of the city, so you wouldn't want to send kids riding bikes across 41 to get to a park. That was my thought process. Okay.
It's probably germane to, also on that park thing, to remember that there's a public school right there.
I saw that too.
So it's a kind of a de facto park.
Yeah.
Back over to you, John.
All right, so now on to review criteria 4, looking at, for the subdivision, is there any soils or topographical conditions that would present hazards that have been identified? We just cite that it is over the Rutherford Prairie Aquifer and that there are no known soil or topographical conditions raising any such concerns. Looking at the zoning, and obviously this will be conditioned upon if it was approved for annexation and the zoning being assigned, but I highlight here in the red, the two zones, you have the R1 and the R2 single family, which they intend to do. I looked at the lot sizing that they have in the table and if they had dimensioned on their plan, and all of the R2 lots were greater than the minimum lot size of the 4,000 needed to facilitate an R2 single-family home. And the same was true with the R1. So if it got assigned the R1 and R2 as proposed and as with the alignment with the proposed subdivision, it would meet the zoning criteria for criteria 5. Criteria 6 looks at paying for your fair share with growth. And as usual, these are paid at the time of building permit, paying their impact fees for parks, public safety, streets, and water reclamation facilities. Water reclamation is usually paid through CAT fees. Here's the agencies notified. Kind of already gone over this as part of the zone change. So same with that. Any questions for me related to zoning and this?
Questions? Nope. Thank you. Invite the applicant up.
Really quick, before we do that, sorry, Brad. I got a quick question regarding the vacation of right-of-way. There are 10 lots in that southwest corner.
Yeah, up in around this area, about southwest, yeah.
Yeah, in that southwest corner.
Yep.
Where there's a 20-foot wide strip of old Post Falls irrigated tracts right-of-way that needs to be vacated by, well, presumably if it's annexed, it would be city council.
Yes, the intent is to run that concurrent, the annexation and vacation on the same evening.
Okay.
As a concurrent, that way we could tell the whole story about what's going on. Obviously, we'll bring up the context of the subdivision, whatever the outcome of that is.
So, and this is probably a question more germane to Chris. So, wouldn't it then be appropriate for us to condition the approval of at least those 10 lots on the actual successful vacation of that? Because, I mean, it's vacation of right-of-way is, if I'm not mistaken, it's legislative, which means council could say no if they wanted to.
Yeah, I think it's an appropriate consideration to say we're going to approve the subdivision contingent on A, successful annexation, and B, successful zoning being approved. But if the subdivision is somewhat contingent on the vacation, which you guys don't get a look at tonight, I think that's an appropriate thing to put in your motion. We haven't had to run a vacation. I mean, they usually aren't that contentious. But yeah, I think it is a legislative action, and whether or not they do or don't would change the outcome of your decision here tonight.
I mean, I wouldn't think that if it was annexed that they would not vacate it. I think that would be perfectly acceptable. It's just one of those things where if we're dotting our i's and crossing our t's and making sure that if this is more of a technical review, then, you know, those are, if that right away never gets vacated, then those are 10 lots that don't meet standards.
Yeah, I'd agree with that recommendation, Commissioner.
Maybe amend number 6.
Yeah, I'll work on some
Gotcha.
amended conditions, or a amended condition.
Any other questions? All right. Invite the applicant up. Name for the record, please.
Test here.
It's in dual screen mode. Forgot how to do that.
There you go.
We can get it out of dual screen, then the cursor would, oh, there it is, right here. It's showing up barely.
There's the cursor.
See what happens when I go into here. See, now you're full screen, but see how the cursor doesn't show up then? If I-
That's fine. I'll use this.
Okay. Okay.
That other button starts my car, so don't push it.
Okay. We'll just go on. Good evening. I'm Brad Marshall with JEB Engineers. For the record, 745 West Hanley Avenue in Coeur d'Alene. Again, it's a pleasure to represent ProMade in the proposed annexation, actually zoning request and preliminary subdivision. With me tonight also is Cole Henderson. Cole's a licensed civil engineer with JEB Engineers, and he's going to kind of touch on the infrastructure aspects of the project. And also with me tonight is Paul from ProMade Homes. Paul's the vice president of ProMade, and he's going to kind of speak a little bit about ProMade and kind of their background, their goals for the project. We want to thank you as commissioners for volunteering your time, and we know this is an unpaid position, volunteering your time and reading the reports and attending hearings and testimony. It's a big commitment, and having done this for years, it is greatly appreciated. I also want to thank the staff. I've worked with John and Rob for years. They're first class, great guys to work for. They do a stellar job, and really definitely appreciate the staff. With that said, we've reviewed the staff report, we reviewed the criteria for zoning and subdivision, the evaluation of that criteria by staff. With that said, we adopt their criteria and their evaluation of that. I'm not going to march through all the criteria tonight, at the tail end of the agenda, so I'll save a little bit of time with that. So by peer adoption of that in agreement, I make that a part of the record. More importantly, we agree with all the recommended conditions of approval, including the proposed sewer condition that Rob brought up. Rob, consummate professional, he called me on it, put it in a report. We talked about it again tonight, and we understand where the city's coming from. We've been part of this development of this area for years. We understand that the city is prudent in doing some sewer analysis in this area of the city, and we'll monitor that and be part of that. So we agree to that condition of approval. It's prudent. Commissioner Kimball also picked up on the right-of-way vacation that's part of this request. We kind of tried to tell that story in the application narrative and the exhibit maps, and we'll do a better job of telling that story when we get in front of the city council, because that's where that vacation is really heard. With that said, we agree, tentatively agree to amendments to conditions number 6 or 8, I think it is, that could speak to the right-of-way vacation.
So, I want you to give you guys a little bit of time to think about this. So the condition that I have written down would be to add to condition number 6, the approval of lots 6 through 15, block 1, as shown in the preliminary plat, is contingent upon the successful vacation of the existing Fennicus right-of-way.
Yep, that works.
Okay.
With that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul. He's got a couple slides. He's going to tell you a little bit about ProMade Homes, and then he's going to turn it back over to me, and then I'm going to turn it over to Cole. So we're going to shake it up a little bit tonight so we don't put you to sleep, and then we'll get out of here. So with that, Paul, you're up. 2 slides.
Good evening. My name is Paul Laurentiev, and want to echo what Brad earlier said. Really appreciate what you guys do, your time that you guys volunteer for the city and for the community. So a little bit about ProMade Homes. So we focus on building quality and attainable homes. We have some of the photos there. You see that's our first project here in Post Falls. That's Teton Meadows. We have some projects in the Spokane area and Deer Park. And this is our one of our upcoming, hopefully, projects here in Post Falls. We've been building homes for just over 25 years. We are currently based out of Kennewick, Washington, which is in Tri-Cities, about 20 minutes from the Oregon border in eastern Washington. We have always wanted to move into the North Idaho market. Currently, we have some of our leadership from our company that have already relocated here to Post Falls. And we're just very excited to be part of this community, provide quality and attainable homes. I won't necessarily go through your slides. Thank you.
Again, a slide for Paul that kind of speaks of, you know, their company, their culture, 25 years in the inland Northwest, already in Post Falls doing business and want to continue to grow and provide their product. Really, this slide kind of speaks to the background of the project. John's done a good job already in his staff report. 41 acres of annexation subdivision request. 22 acres R1 zoning, 92 lots. Again, 19 acres R2, 117. Total of 209 lots, 4,200 to 10,000, all above your minimum lot size requirements in the R2 and the R1. 10,700 is a big R1 lot. There's no doubt, and we'll kind of get into that. Again, the goal is to develop the project in phases, 5 to 6 years at least, depending on market conditions. There may be a time when the market's kind of hot and really going. There may be a phase 1 and 2 or 2 and 3 that go together. There may be a time when you meter out the next phase, or maybe you kind of slow it down a little bit. You know, jumping out there and investing in infrastructure, a good developer is always kind of monitoring that. Couple housekeeping things. I think the site's been in the area of city impact for 30 plus years, at least. I can remember when those agreements were done. Now it's in the area of impact. Again, it's kind of being put together by the city and the county as a result of some new legislation. Again, it's adjacent to city limits. It's, you know, Foxdale kind of wraps around it, which obviously is in the city, adjacent to city streets. In terms of water, there's a Ross Point water well and tank literally across the street from the site. We're working with the Ross Point Water District to actually annex the site into the Ross Point Water District. And as part of that, there's a condition that we deed over the associated water rights with this property to the Water District, so they have the capacity to serve this project. Great water district out there, and a tremendous engineer works for them. The site, again, is adjacent to Treaty Rock Elementary School, a park, and a planned city park. And there was a good question that was brought up about the park space. And you did pick up, there's not a whole lot of park space within this project. There's some green space, green belts, and some walkways and so forth. So in the early stages, we reached out to the Lakeside Architect Homes, the developer of that project. And ProMade, we partnered with them. So this project is actually going to partner up with Foxdale and participate in their homeowner association. And so a homeowner in here will actually pay a fee for maintenance of the Foxdale's park and be able to access that park. In addition to that, they're partnering with Foxdale or Lakeside in the construction of Finicus from Prosper all the way up to Prairie Avenue. So there's a partnership there in infrastructure and park space. And then, as I think John mentioned, there's a proposed, well, it's a required city park, public park within the Foxdale development that is in the early stages of construction, and I think needs to be wrapped up within the year. So that's kind of a little background. I'll kind of get into that a little bit more with some maps. Again, Again, this kind of tells the story just a little bit. Again, the site, that park space that they're partnering on. The Treaty Rock Elementary School, again, that's a Post Falls School District elementary school. Cole's going to speak a little bit about that because we're going to actually be improving Prosper. Excuse me, it's Hope. The north side of Hope that's adjacent to the school, kind of finishing out that curb gutter and sidewalk so we can improve the circulation in there for vehicles, but also the pedestrians and, quite frankly, kids in that area. It's a bottleneck. Again, the site's right across the street from Ross Point's well and tank, and it's very, very near the Prairie Medical Campus. And full disclosure, our firm is working on the Prairie Medical Campus. So we're the civil engineer on that project. We're working with Lakeside and associated improvements and our proposed project tonight. Lots going on in this area of the city. We should back up a little bit. This is, again, an exciting area, Jacqueline Park to the north, nice commercial area. We've got Peak out there, the schools. I know they're selling some retail sites out there, commercial sites. We've got the Prairie Crossing Shopping Center. So a lot of good chemistry out there, and to provide a housing product that's close to the hospital, we believe is very beneficial. Fun fact, at full build out, that hospital will employ over 1,000 employees. First phase is certainly not that many, just a couple hundred, but over time, a significant amount. Future land use designation, again, John did a great job. The city adopts the comprehensive plan, they adopt a future land use map, they designate this as transitional area. There's an analysis of does that R1, does that R2 fit that transitional designation? And it does, it's pretty clear. If it's the densities match up, the circulation aspects of the project match up pretty well. Zoning. Again, we're proposing that R1 and R2 zoning. Sites surrounded by R1 for the most part. Again, Foxdale kind of mixes it up using a PUD, but their overall density is an R1. They have some small lots, some big lots, some open space, but their density is about R1. So again, we think we're very compatible with that R1. We'll kind of illustrate some product there. And again, John touched on this. Well, he's still on the thunder here. But you think about land use planning, and you look at the main corridors, whether it's Highway 41 or Prairie Avenue, they produce a lot of traffic, noise, a little odor. So you tend to put commercial development on those corridors. Occasionally, you put some high-density multifamily, maybe a senior housing or assisted living in those areas. And then as you kind of get away from those higher traffic corridors, maybe one step off, you tend to do a little less density. And that might be like a R3, in this case an R2. It's a little smaller lot product, smaller lot, smaller frontage, maybe first-time home buyers who buy that, get their first house. Or maybe it is the empty nester that wants a little something smaller. So that's that R2, and then as we move farther to the south, we provide that R1 housing product. It's a very marketable product, much in demand and very conducive to the area. Again, this is kind of a slide you saw before. You could turn this thing straight up north-south, but it's not. Again, we've got that R1 and R2 kind of breaks it up a little bit by the extension of Prosper. I wanted to touch a little bit on housing and the demand for it. Again, it's in your comprehensive plan, it's in your staff report. Yes, we've had a lot of growth in the area, a lot of change. For somebody who's been here a long time, myself, there's been a lot of change. But with that said, we still continue to be short of housing units, whether or not single family or multifamily. And that's a challenge in the marketplace, it's a challenge in affordability. And there's a housing study that was done by the U of I a couple of years ago and then updated. It speaks to the shortage, the demand, the impacts to the marketplace. And it's real. There are industries that want to move here. There's industry that's here and that wants to grow. And they can't find affordable housing for their employees. And it's a real deal. So this is one tool. It is another development that provides an affordable housing product. This is an example of the housing products that would be built in the R1 and R2. The R1, again, is a 65-foot wide lot. It accommodates about a 2,000 square foot rancher with a three-car garage, good-looking house, or a two-story house with a little more affordable product, a little more open space within the lot itself. And then there's an R2 example, again, a small rancher, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, or R2 two-story. And I think that our neighboring developers, they're good ones. The Lakeside Arcatera Homes, they provide a good housing product. This product will complement that and fit right in, make for some good competition. Timeline. What's this kind of look like? We submitted the applications in November. Actually, been working on this 6 months or a year before that. Here we are tonight in front of the Planning Commission. We're requesting approval of the zoning and the subdivision. We hope to go to City Council in April. And ideally, if we obtain approval with conditions, we'd begin development of phase 1 into late fall. And then begin home construction in June and maybe occupancy of December of next year. And then full build out at fall 2032. That's a ways out. Now, with that said, given the condition of approval regarding sewer, we've got to do a little bit of work here, some analysis that could push us back a little bit on that start of construction, depending on how that shakes out and the results that we get. That's kind of what the phases look like. Again, 6 phases. There's kind of a phase 1 that's R1, phase 2 that has a R2 product. So a little yin and the yang, a bit of each, and then progressively working through each of the phases depending on market. Key point, phase 1 will include the reconstruction of, or the finishing off of Hope right across from Treat Rock. So we're pretty excited about that.
Hey, Brad.
Hey.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
The skinny tract A that's in phase 3.
Yep, that's a pathway.
Is that a pathway? Yeah, I was talked with Rob. I didn't know if coordinating the pathway to maybe the safest location along that stretch, were you guys opposed to that? Like potentially.
I think we can move it around a little bit.
Yeah. Because I think we have Calpio to the west and Foxtel that maybe if there's a drive approach with the appropriate sending and receivers from a pedestrian, then you're not having a mid-block event, so.
You guys okay?
Okay.
Heck yeah.
Oh, and I was just going to say, I know you've had questions, but time's almost up, though.
Oh,
So-
okay, I'll be quick.
So
Well, with that, I was going to turn it over to my civil engineer.
that's cool.
Kinda
Yeah, if
go
you can
through
do it
the-
real quick. I know we had a couple questions in there, and that kind of cuts into the time of you guys being able to present, so.
She
I can be
stopped the
quick.
clock.
Okay, there's your.
I don't have the clicker, man.
She did.
Cole Henderson, JB Engineers. I can
She
be
won't do
quick. I just really appreciate, John and Rob, they had a really thorough report, so I don't need to spend everyone's time up here. So I'll be quicker and we can run through this. But basically, this is the Transportation Master Plan. Our SNP kind of just shows a lot of those major roadway connectivities. This is the older Transportation Master Plan. John showed some of the more newer roadway connectivity through here. So the next few slides, we'll kind of get into some of those details. But we are planning on building out these major roadway connections to allow for connectivity throughout just the developments around this area. So Finicus that we talked about, our developer is looking to partner with Lakeside on the finishing of Finicus in 2026, Prosper connecting through this development, and then the building out of Hope. These kind of shows the typical road sections. Again, don't need to get into the details, but the second section on the bottom kind of shows a wider street section. That's really Prosper going through the middle, as well as like Finicus and Hope that are on the west and south sides being wider. And then the more typical street section that we have on the top for the smaller roadways throughout. This is really on the south side. This is Hope. Brad kind of alluded to this before, where it kind of shows two different sections looking at this right next to the school. It'd be really nice to have this road be fully built out, connectivity throughout for kids walking around neighborhoods, just to have that be more cohesive and safe.
Sewer, that's another one. I know we're short on time. I don't need to drill down on this. Rob kind of already took us there. So I think we're looking to accept, we agree with all the conditions of approval for sewer to kind of move forward and make sure that we're adequately going to have sufficient flow capacity for downstream sewer pipes before we really proceed and start adding additional flow. Water, again, in Ross Point Water District, adding looping to and throughout this whole development into neighboring developments as well. Open space, this kind of highlights the green areas, and John Manley kind of asked about the one on the top left of your screen. So yes, we can definitely kind of shift that tract around. So there's kind of two tracks on the top side, which is the west side of our screen, that really we are planning on having two walkways that would connect out to that side to kind of help get people that might be kind of trapped more so in those areas out to larger roadway connectivities, parks and whatnot. So. And that's kind of wrapping up our report. And we really appreciate your guys' time, and we recommend approval. We'll stand for questions if you guys have
Questions? No questions. Thank you. Public testimony? Wishing to speak in favor is Mark Hughes.
Hi, good evening. My name's Mark Hughes. I could point to it on the map if it was back up there. We're the ones that sold the land to ProMate. And so I live on the Hughes farm. Those two parcels, we sold to them June 2024, I'm going to say. And I wanted to speak we're excited about everything that's happening in our particular area, Highway 41 in Prairie, with the hospital and everything coming in. And I wanted to speak in support of ProMate because the reason we had a lot of offers, of course, when we listed the land for sale, and we just liked the product they made. We thought they would do a good job. That's what we intended to do in there anyway, single-family homes. So I wanted to speak in support of the zoning request and the annexation. Now, I have to castigate the applicant a little bit. This is the first time I saw the platting. So there's two places where roads are running into our property that was a little bit of a surprise to me. So hopefully it's not carved in stone. We may want to coordinate on that sort of a thing. I've made a point of working closely and supporting the Jacquelines to the north of us, everything in Arcatera to the south of us. We've had, our land adjoins to Arcatera, so we've had a lot of opportunities to work together. And I'd like to have the same kind of relationship, of course, with this applicant, the ProMate, because we're going to be neighbors. So yes, I'm supportive of the annexation request, the zoning request, and I'll remain neutral on the subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you. Wishing to speak in opposition. I'm going to butcher your name, so I'm just going to let you talk about it. I should know it by now, but I don't.
Thank you. My name is Petri Judo, but you can just call me Peter. It's a little easier. I live in the Foxtail development there, and just to kind of piggyback what's been talked about a little bit, but I felt hasn't really been adequately answered, is the park spaces. We have about 5 parks in our subdivision in Foxtail, which we all pay HOA to maintain. The applicant touched a little on, which I believe is called a Dino Park in our subdivision, which is a little less than 2 acres. It has a little playground, a little sand pit, and it butts right up to their, where they're developing. So I guess they say that they're gonna help pay to maintain that park. But what about the 4 other parks? Because just to the west of their subdivision, Architera just finished putting in 2 pickleball courts, a basketball court, a couple of picnic benches, some green space and stuff. And it will be like a 1-minute walk from this development just to go use those pickleball courts or those basketball courts or those picnic benches for, you know, whoever lives in this development. And I guess none of what the applicant said that is going to be paid for, it's going to go to maintaining those. So this is definitely something I'm going to bring up in our next HOA meeting to see what Architera recommends. But also, like, just even to the south of that, we have another playground, some more picnic benches, public bathrooms for all Architera residents to use. And again, it's going to be like another 1-minute walk just to go use those picnic benches and those public bathrooms, which again, like our HOA fees go to maintain. And I guess, you know, like I said, they kind of just touched that. They're going to be butted up right to that Dino Park, and they're going to pay to help use that, which, I mean, obviously, it's because they're butted right up to it. But what about everything else? So I think that's something that really needs to be looked into because, like it was brought up, they don't have any of their really own green space. They're not going to have any of their own pickleball courts. They don't have any of their own playgrounds. They don't have any of their own basketball courts. They don't have any of their own picnic tables. So I feel like it's just going to push their residents to use what our HOA fees are paying to maintain. And not to sound like a stickler, but I don't think anyone's going to be happy paying to have people use what you don't pay to use. And that's just kind of my point there. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. We invite the applicant up for any rebuttal.
Address that question there. The residents within this project will pay Foxdale HOA fees, including park maintenance for all the parks. So going kind of back to that right-of-way vacation, the ProMate group actually bought a sliver of land from the Foxdale group to kind of realign Finicus there, which kind of relates to that vacation and is part of participating or partnering on the extension of Finicus and the parks. That the HOA fee came out of that. So there is a partnership there. And these are two good, long-standing regional developers who have developed a friendship and a partnership there. Through that. But that said, we've submitted a very complete, detailed application. Staff has done a tremendous job on the evaluation of the criteria, which we agree with. We agree with all the conditions of approval, including the sewer fee, as well as the right-of-way vacation. There's the agencies, the city departments that have reviewed the application, not popped up any red flags, let alone yellow flags. There's no opposition to the project. In fact, I think there's a half dozen support letters in behalf of the project. On behalf of ProMate Homes, we'd respectfully request approval, a recommendation of approval on the zoning of R1 and R2, and the subdivision that would have been forwarded on to the city council. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Before we close it, I got one quick question for staff. Peter mentioned that there's a park being developed directly to the west of this property. Is that the public park that you guys were speaking to? So the city of Post Falls is, so Architera is building a public park for the city of Post Falls that would be owned and maintained by the Parks Department, and that's what the pickleball courts are. And is that correct?
I haven't seen the design of that park, but that's the location of the park they're coordinating with the City of Post Falls Parks Department and the Park and Rec Commission for final design. I haven't seen the final design of what the elements are, but.
So it's just in design, so there's a different one there that's.
It's a different one.
It's a different one? Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood. So there will be a public park located west of this property on Prosper that will be owned and maintained by the city of Post Falls.
Yep, south of Prosper.
And that's in design right now and to be constructed in the near future.
Yeah, they're coordinating the design. I'm not well versed on the status of that.
Okay.
But that is the location.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Close out the hearing. The review criteria.
So Commissioners, let's go ahead and go through the annexation criteria first, if that's acceptable. Heaven View, annexation 25-9. We're looking for a zoning recommendation of R1 and R2 for the two properties, I think 22 acres and 19 plus acres. So criteria number one for that initial zoning review criteria. Are the proposed zoning districts consistent with the future land use map and focus area?
So the land use map is transitional, which points us to the focus area, which is 41 North. I'm getting to that. Other commissioners can chime in here
Okay,
anytime.
but yeah, the 41 North says residential development in this area has been prominent for years. And as we're growing, this is an area that is going to continue to grow and it's strategically located with the Highway 41 and pole line and all the growth that's happening out there. There's lots of residential around there and then the commercial closer to the higher usage roadways there.
It also speaks to development providing pedestrian connectivity to all multi-use paths and trails, which the pedestrian connectivity on Hope Avenue as well as Fennicus will help complete that on development, follow-on development. And it'll also facilitate the creation of the backage road system, of which Fennicus is included. That's all in the 41 North focus area.
Thank you, Commissioners. And I think there is some testimony in the record as to medium density residential is located adjacent to the one side of this, and then adjacent to that is also the low density residential. So there is some consistency there as well.
It also transitions from what is probably expected to be a higher intensity use on the adjoining property to the north along Prairie Avenue. So that's where you typically get that kind of a transition from higher intensity to lower intensity as we go from north to south.
Thank you. Number two, are the proposed zoning districts, R2 and R1, consistent with the goals and policies contained in the comprehensive plan?
For me, it's goal one, just the growth and the balance, resilient economy for Post Falls. If you look at this whole area holistically, you got R1, R2, hopefully, the word attainable was out there, affordable, and then you have the medical center, the Prairie shopping center, and all the growth that's happening out there. So hopefully we're going to get not only some, roughly what was it, 200 and so houses, single-family houses, we're going to get a bunch of jobs out there, and hopefully that'll be good for the whole city.
I like policy 1 and policy 2 here too. Support land uses that promote compatible, well-designed development. I think the way that it lays out and it works into what's existing already speaks to that. And then also policy 2, which is applying or revised zoning designations with careful consideration of factors, including compatibility with surrounding land use and infrastructure and service plans. So we talked a lot about, or we heard a lot about sewer and roadways. And so I think this fits that very well. There's been a lot of thought put into that and planning for that.
Yeah, policies 26 speaks to connectivity of sidewalks and trails, and specifically on the north side of Hope, across the street from the elementary school. I think the potential for connecting those trails up and developing those trails is important, as well as along Fennicus. Policy 27 speaks to street connectivity, and I think that's an important one to speak to when it comes to Fennicus being a backage road. And once Fennicus and Hope are completed all the way out to, or Fennicus completed to Prairie Avenue and Hope completed to Highway 41, the traffic patterns out there should add for better distribution of traffic, which will help alleviate any traffic congestions, or at least disperse traffic a little bit better. So I think it meets policy 26 and 27.
My only concern, and I think it's worthy of note, is just the timing of all these different components. I think it's being planned for well, but I would hate to see, like, let's say this gets developed before Fennicus connects to Prairie, or this gets developed before Prosper is completed. And I know there are some conditions and so forth in the approval, but that's just a concern I have.
Yeah, I get it. And I think the important thing to remember is that, one, the houses don't fall out of the sky.
Yep.
So it takes a long time for that to happen. And two, that, those streets, Fennicus and Hope in those areas they're well under their capacity right now.
Yeah.
They'll probably end up with more traffic once everything connects through and people find that there are little ways to shortcut and do that kind of stuff. But between now and then, I think they've got a good plan. I mean, not everything is clean and perfect, and the little 5-acre ones are usually a lot easier. This is a little bit more complex, and they've planned for it, and I think they've done a good job of doing so.
What is Fennicus, by the way?
I think it's a Latin name for fox,
Huh.
or the genus.
Okay.
I think.
Always wondered that.
Don't quote me.
What the Fennicus?
All right, Commissioners, on to 3. Any demonstrable adverse impacts evidenced in the record?
None noted.
None noted.
Noted.
Thank you.
Who'd like to make a motion?
This is on the annexation?
It's the annexation and the zone.
Yeah.
Yep.
I move to recommend approval of the Heaven View annexation ANNX-25-9, finding that the requested zoning meets the requested zonings meet the approval criteria in the Post Falls Municipal Code 18.20.100 as outlined in our deliberation, and direct staff to prepare a zoning recommendation to be provided to City Council.
Second?
Were the zones in there?
Nope.
Well, I said zones. Do you want zones?
I don't want to
We have them in the record, the R1 and the R2
Yeah,
as
R1,
requested.
nitpicky, just in case. All right. So we got a motion. Did I hear a second?
Second.
I heard a second. Roll call, please.
Schreiber,
Yes.
Kimball,
Yes.
Wilhelm,
Yes.
Hauer,
Yes.
Stephenson,
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
Subdivision.
Okay, and finally, Heaven View Subdivision 25-9. Review criteria number 1, addressing water supply adequate in quantity and quality for the type of subdivision proposed.
They have a will serve letter from Ross Point Water District, and that covers that base.
Yep, and I don't think there was anything to refute that presumption, so. Number 2, the public sewage system matter.
I think it's conditioned.
Yeah.
They've made the adequate provisions so that the system can accommodate the proposed sewer flows, and they're going to provide the study to make sure that that is the case. So I think we're both covered from the planning standpoint as well as the documentation, and I also think that the fact that they'll be contributing to the surcharge helps cover the long-term issue, which is a bigger part.
So on this issue, Commissioners, we have our proposed condition in a different slide, and we can pop that up at the end if that helps you in the deliberations.
Yeah, I think that was condition 13 that the city engineer popped up on this slide, if I could reference that.
Number 3, proposed streets are consistent with the transportation element of the comprehensive plan. They are. Prosper is going to be at the minor collector. Hope is going to be widened to collector, I think major collector standard. Fennicus is kind of off-site, but also apart. And then all of as mentioned by Mr. Hughes, they are poking some streets out for future connectivity out to different locations. They're connecting into the existing transportation or planned transportation network for Foxtail. So they're covering those transportation elements, including the pedestrian connectivity elements as well.
Just a commentary, because I like to add commentary. I appreciate that there's no private roads.
Number 4, all areas of the proposed subdivision involving soil or topographical conditions presenting hazards have been identified, and that the uses of these areas are compatible.
None identified.
There was none identified.
I'd agree on that one. Number 5, the area proposed for the subdivision is zoned for the proposed use, and it conforms to other requirements found in our code. And I think we add the language to condition number 6 that I spoke to earlier. It will, in fact, meet all the requirements of the code. Okay. Finally, Commissioners, adequate provisions to ensure that the community bears no more than its fair share of costs by paying fees or other off-site improvements or mitigation. I mean, obviously that's impact fees, but also the surcharge fees speak to that as well.
And there's substantial public improvements in this project.
Yes.
With all those public roads, curbs, gutters, sidewalks, landscaping, there's a lot of.
They're doing a lot.
And I would note that there was also some testimony about them paying the adjacent homeowners fees to use some of their facilities and internalize some of those costs as well. I don't know if that addresses this criteria squarely, but it was mentioned. Thank you, Commissioners.
So with this add, or are you gonna amend 6?
I'll do a motion.
Okay.
I would move to approve the Heaven View subdivision file SUBD-25-9, finding it meets the approval criteria in Post Falls Municipal Code 17.12.060H as outlined in our deliberations, subject to conditions 1 through 12 as found in the staff report, condition 13 as proposed in the staff presentation by Mr. Rob Paulus, and adding the following language to condition number 6, stating that the approval of lots 6 through 15, block 1, as shown on the preliminary plat, are contingent upon the successful vacation of the existing Fennicus right-of-way, and direct staff to prepare a written decision to that end.
Motion on the floor,
I second.
and a second. Roll call, please.
Gary,
Yes.
Stephenson,
Yes.
Schlethauer,
Yes.
Wilhelm,
Yes.
Kimball,
Yes.
Shriver.
Yes.
All righty. Those will move on to City Council. Thank you. Next item, administrative staff reports. And I'm pulling out my phone here. The comp plan workshop, is that at 4:30 or 5 next Tuesday?
Thanks for bringing that up. That's 4:30.
4:30.
I just got confirmation
Okay.
this week.
That's why I brought it up.
Yeah, it's, yeah, on the comp plan on the 17th?
Yeah.
Yep.
Would it be possible to do a Zoom link on that at all?
We're trying to, we're doing a Zoom link with the applicant, but we're trying not to create any complications with their presentation, and
I just want to be able to watch it while I'm
traveling.
Oh, you're traveling?
I am.
Yeah, I can give you the Zoom link for that.
Okay.
Probably. That way you can listen in.
I'll make my wife drive.
Okay.
Safety first. All right, so 4:30. And that will be time boxed, so it'll be over by 5:45 because they have a meeting that night, so. Any other commissioner comments?
I wanted to thank Chris for his first joke tonight. He followed it up with a second joke
My last
afterwards.
No more joke.
Neither was very funny, but I appreciate the effort.
Wow.
Noted.
Maybe next another one next time, maybe.
I mean, we all
I
got to work on our
want to thank
material.
Chris for scolding me.
No.
And Nancy reminded me of one more thing. So the next couple months, March and April, would you rather have 4? Okay, so we have numerous applications that are trying to get in between now and May for their projects. And so in order to do that, we look at balancing these, and we're capped at 3 per evening as a standard rule of thumb without going to you guys first. Now, options is we could propose a 4th one in April, keeping most of them all at 3 per evening. So you'd have two in March. I think March 31st would be the second one, then we'd have April, and then we would have another one at the end of April as a proposal. Another option would be to have 3, but have slightly longer ones, which when I say slightly, kind of what we're thinking about having 5, but really it's a 2-for-101 on the first meeting in March. And then April, we would have 4. I mean, March, and second one of March 31st, we'd have 4. And then in April, we'd be back to 3. And then, so technically, we'd be running.
You want to go 5?
Well, because it's a 2-for-1. Basically, it's 2 subdivisions that are adjacent, so we can run 1 staff report for 2 that are adjacent, but they're 2 different owners. Just punting it out, what you guys prefer. What are your druthers?
Do you guys want to go longer or more often?
So, the whole reason we went to the 5:30 was so we're not here all night.
Right.
And that's why we limited it at 3. But with that being said, say, for example, pick the second one out tonight. It was quick, it was easy, done and done. So if you have 4 or even 5 like that, we're still not going to be here as long as we've been here today. So I think it all depends on what type of hearing they are. If it's questionable, like, one may be contentious, then we do the 2. That's my thought. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
I was thinking the same thing, because sometimes we can zip right through public hearings. Of course, we don't really know until.
Exactly, yeah.
No, that's good input for us to weigh kind of what we're looking at. No, right now, we don't have 2 in April. We can do 2 in April. And then we could propose potential days, and then we would just throttle them all back to 3 and then spread it out thinner. Or do we just try to get rid of 1 extra
I guess
meeting?
it depends on what it is. I mean, if it's a 2-for-1 and then an easy one, I don't know.
Would you guys appreciate the kind of an email, like kind of just do a consensus email, kind of what it looks like for potential time? We'd have to guess.
I appreciate the emails that Nancy, and I'm sure you guys are all in coordination, like, getting the second one scheduled in March already, and we're just now in February. That's helpful for planning purposes. So I appreciate that. So let's just continue that, and then, just make a suggestion in that email saying, hey, these are, could be easier ones. If we do 4, we can have 1 meeting. If we do 3 and 1, we're going to have 2 meetings, something like that. Let's just play it like that.
Okay, we'll probably get an email out tomorrow then to you guys.
Yeah, and full disclosure,
Okay.
I'll be presenting on some of those, so even though I'll be stepping down for the night, I'll be here.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think we got that's the first one in March, right? That's the first one in March?
Might be more than that.
Okay.
I was gonna say that might impact us too, is if we have another commissioner coming on. When they come on, maybe that changes things. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. But I know we're at least got a quorum for the first meeting, for sure. Everybody's confirmed that, and then we'll be in communication about the second one.
That was kind of the root of the quorum email was
Sure.
knowing that someone would be stepping down, so.
No, that makes sense.
Okay.
All righty.
Move to adjourn?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Meeting adjourned.